di questa sessione dedicata ai MOOCs, poi incominceremo ad entrare davvero nel vivo, ma prima intanto che anche molti colleghi ci stanno ancora raggiungendo, partiamo subito con questo intervento da parte della collega Yuma Berardi di Miriada X, che è una delle principali iniziative di MOOCs in area ispanica, che ci racconterà qual è stata la loro esperienza, da dove sono partiti e quali sono i loro obiettivi. L'abbiamo, come vedete, in collegamento con noi in videoconferenza, perché purtroppo ha avuto all'ultimo momento un problema di salute e non le è stato possibile essere con noi. Le lascio ora la parola e poi dopo il suo intervento mi raggiungeranno qui l'altro chairman, professor Limone, e gli altri gentili ospiti internazionali che sono stati invitati qua oggi. Grazie. Prego, Yuma.
Buongiorno. Prima di tutto vorrei ringraziare l'Università di Perugia per questa invitazione. Mi dispiace moltissimo non essere potuta lì poi partecipare personalmente, così pure sentire le esperienze di tutti gli altri interventori. E ringrazio pure al Studi e al SIEL per questa meravigliosa iniziativa e per darci a noi l'opportunità di partecipare. Come bene ha detto la dottoressa Susanna, noi da Telefonica vi parliamo oggi un po' della nostra esperienza con Miriada X. Miriada X è la prima piattaforma iberoamericana, che adesso vi farò vedere certe slide, con corsi sviluppati da più di 1200 università che sono dentro il gruppo di Universia, che è il Banco Santander, una linea del Banco Santander che appoggia tutte le università iberoamericane. Noi abbiamo cominciato a fine del 2013 con questa iniziativa, oggi per oggi già ci siamo trovati, già abbiamo certi dati interessanti che vorrei compartire con tutti voi. E per incominciare ci sono certe domande che credo che tutti questi che siamo immersi in questo meraviglioso mondo dei MOOCs possiamo partire con voi, no? Ci sono certi dubbi, certamente, che girano intorno a come le università devono evolvere le metodologie pedagogiche con gli studenti, e come tutto questo sta cambiando certamente la forma di insegnare e impartire le nostre lezioni in un mondo massivo e online. Altri dei dubbi propri che ci sono, se questi corsi MOOC che si offrono per free o gratuitamente sono sostenibili nel tempo come negozio tanto per le università come tutti le altre ditte che partecipano, come noi per esempio una ditta di telecomunicazione, di stakeholders che possono partecipare nello sviluppo dei corsi. Il chiaro tema dell'accreditazione, per esempio, se si vendono o non si vendono i certificati di questi corsi e se c'è certo valore tanto per l'università come per le ditte, e per così parlare un po' dell'empleabilità, no? Non so se voi vedete lo slide che io vi sto presentando, però un altro dei dubbi principali sono se questi corsi hanno veramente un sviluppo professionale per tutti quelli che li corsano, per gli studenti, quali sono i modelli di negozio e se veramente i MOOCs, che questo è un altro dei dibattiti principali, sono un modello per democratizzare con la conoscenza e la cultura. Oggi per oggi diciamo che, come si vede in questo slide, i principali attori dei corsi MOOC sono in Europa e tutta in Latino America, e in America ci sono certamente Coursera, edX, che tutti voi la conoscete, che sono iniziative americane come Udacity. Qui in Europa c'è FutureLand, che credo che sono pure lì con noi oggi sul tavolo, Iversity, Open Youth Education dell'Unione Europea e certamente noi come Miriadas, che siamo basati qui in Spagna e in Latino America. Nell'inizio dell'anno 2014, per esempio, c'è stato un documento che ha progettato l'Unione Europea, dove si può vedere quanti corsi MOOC stanno sviluppando in Europa, dei quali 136 nascono in Spagna. Così si può dire che dei 394 corsi MOOC che ci sono in Europa, uno di ogni 3 escono dalla Spagna. In questo slide potete vedere un po' cosa è Miriadas, no? Così possiamo dire che Miriadas è la prima piattaforma latinoamericana di MOOCs. In questo momento abbiamo più di 1 milione di usuari matricolati, studenti. Abbiamo una comunità specifica per professori che più davanti, adesso ve la spiego un po' di più. In questo momento abbiamo più di 1114 professori iscritti nella nostra comunità. Lavoriamo con 1262 università che stiamo poco a poco facendole entrare in questo meraviglioso mondo di MOOC. Abbiamo più di 211 corsi pubblicati, abbiamo una tassa di iscrizione di più del 75% media e una tassa di più di 22% di finalizzazione dei corsi. Io adesso vi vorrei fare vedere, perché ci sono sempre questi dibattiti intorno a il numero di ragazzi o di studenti che si matricolano verso quelli che finiscono, non un corso. In questo caso potete vedere per esempio un esempio dei 20 corsi con tasse più alte di finalizzazione verso la tassa di iscrizione. In questo caso per esempio possiamo vedere che abbiamo un corso con più del 55% di finalizzazione verso il 77% di iniziati, perché mai è lo stesso quelli che si iscrivono in confronto a quelli che iniziano e poi quelli che finiscono il corso, no? Più avanti lo vedremo pure. Qui si può vedere un po' che andiamo dal 55% al 35% di finalizzazione nei corsi. Ed è un dato molto interessante, per esempio, se ci centriamo in questo caso, ci sono certi corsi che già stanno nella seconda o terza edizione. Per esempio, il secondo caso è una seconda edizione di un corso che si chiama La segurità dell'ammalato, per dire, no? È un corso di nursery. Nella seconda edizione loro hanno avuto un 52% di finalizzazione e nella prima un 42,23% di finalizzazione verso un 84% di inizio, quindi più del 50% dei studenti hanno finito il corso. Queste sono tasse altissime per questo mondo dei MOOCs ed è veramente gratificante vedere come ci sono questi corsi che magari uno per la sua tematica può arrivare a pensare che non hanno tanta demanda, come veramente sono altamente richiesti. In questo caso invece vi faccio vedere un altro dato. Sarebbe riporti con le tasse più alte di finalizzazione verso l'iscrizione. Qui vedete per esempio che circa il 60% di quelli che si iscrivono iniziano il corso. È una come si dice in italiano? È una costante. E più del 40% di questi che iniziano finiscono il corso. Quindi uno, quando a volte ci dicono qual è il corso più esitoso, potremmo dire che il corso più esitoso è quello che ha avuto più gente che si è iscritta o più gente che ha finito, o di quelli che si sono iscritti, quanti hanno iniziato e quanti hanno finito il corso. Ma con questo dato importante, il 60% è la media di quelli che si iscrivono, iniziano un corso e più del 40,98% sono quelli che lo finiscono. In questo caso invece vediamo un altro dato, no? Qui per esempio possiamo vedere un corso che ha avuto moltissimo esito, che si tratta di programmare su applicazione per Android, ha avuto una tassa di iscrizione di ha avuto più di circa i 30.000 studenti si sono iscritti. Circa di 20.000, 25.000 hanno incominciato, ma poi vedete come veramente quelli che hanno finito sono un po' più di 5.000, quindi niente. Tutti questi dati si devono analizzare così poter ridisegnare i nostri corsi in un momento determinato, perché si deve sempre stare attento a quanti questi iniziano un corso, quanti li finiscono e perché. In questo caso, per esempio, era un corso eccessivamente lungo ed eccessivamente complesso. Dobbiamo sempre pensare che tutta la gente che per la modalità propria dei target di digi e di siti ampiamente diverso. Quindi se tu fai un corso summamente complesso con un sacco di evaluazioni complicate, ci sarà nello sviluppo del corso gente che passa tempo e fa passare. Quindi non sempre una tassa di iscrizione e di inizio si può tradurre in un'altra tassa di finalizzazione di esito di un corso. Si deve sempre studiare un po' come ristrutturare il corso in funzione dei risultati che si possono vedere ogni tanto. No? Nel caso della comunità di professori, noi a Miriada certamente pensiamo che il valore più importante è capire siete voi professori. Noi per questo abbiamo creato una comunità dentro di Miriada X privata alla che solo accedono i professori e dotiamo di certe ferramente sociali per creare network e per certamente pure per cambiare per esempio buone pratiche. Per esempio, nella comunità di professori loro hanno a disposizione un corso MOOC aperto che gli insegna come per Miriadax. Abbiamo sessioni sincrone come webinars dove ogni quindicina di giorni, per esempio, li formiamo o chiariamo certi dubbi che possono avere con la propria piattaforma, con l'LMS, come caricare i video, come caricare i contenuti, come disegnare i loro corsi. Poi li aiutiamo pure con il disegno instructional design, oppure li orientiamo un po'. Nella loro comunità ci danno uno spazio per le parti tipiche che stanno nutrendo con le domande degli altri, hanno un supporto tecnico personalizzato via mail 24/7, hanno pure un blog che cercano di creare network, presentiamo ogni mese un professore della comunità, qualsiasi università certamente, ma con una visione più personale, no? Conoscere la persona che è questo professore, quali sono i suoi hobby, come è stata la sua esperienza con il mondo dei MOOCs, cosa pensano che apportano per la società. C'è pure una comunità, una libreria, una document library, dove abbiamo una serie di documentazioni e di consigli pure, per esempio mail tippicati, consigli la dinamizzazione dei loro corsi. E c'è uno spazio per il foro, un foro dove loro certamente intercambiano buone pratiche. Quindi in questo cosa si cerca? Creare veramente uno spazio dedicato ai professori di conoscenza in aperto per loro, tutti i professori di Miriada. Dati importanti dei professori che ci sono a Miriada quando abbiamo fatto una survey, no? Il 58% dei professori credono di partecipare in come un'opportunità per research, per fare analisi del comportamento dello sviluppo degli studenti. Più dell'80% dei professori non avevano mai fatto un corso online, non l'avevano mai sviluppato, non erano abituati con la modalità online. Quindi qua c'è un fattore importante di gestire il cambio nel pensamento, nel design della classe. Più del 32% dei professori mai avevano fatto un corso neanche come studenti. Quindi questi sono dati molto importanti che portano a vedere un po' com'è la situazione delle nostre università, com'è la situazione di conoscenza che c'è nei nostri professori e quali sono le necessità che possono avere in un momento determinato. per esempio, noi diciamo che da tutto questo siamo riusciti a avere certe conclusioni, no? C'è un'altissima differenza tra gli studenti che vogliono, per esempio, pagare per un certificato di quelli che no. Ci sono differenti motivi. È molto importante per l'esito di un corso che si dedichi il tempo prudente, intorno a 2 o 3 settimane, per comunicarlo. Ci sono casi che, per esempio, il corso è pubblicato e ti dicono, beh, fra 3 mesi si apre e poi mai arriva il giorno di aprirlo, no? La gente si stanca, ci possono essere un sacco di ragazzi che si siano iscritti nel corso, però il tempo passa e vedono che non incomincia. Allora l'iniziativa o l'interesse cade e neanche si può, l'altro caso di dire in una settimana si apre il corso, si pubblica nel catalogo e si apre, perché non dà tempo a comunicarlo attraverso dei ferramenze sociali, per esempio, Twitter, LinkedIn, no? Che ci hanno intorno. Noi, per esempio, da Media applichiamo come una strategia di comunicazione e di marketing. Un altro punto importante sono le abilità comunicazionali del professore, certamente. Noi siamo abituati a fare discorso nelle nostre classi e quando ti metti davanti a tanta filmatrice, l'esperienza è completamente diversa. Quindi sono certi che noi diamo ai professori, quindi quando loro vanno davanti a una camera si sentono più comodi, ci sono per esempio cose basiche, oppure come la vestimenta, come ti devi muovere, come devi essere vestito, perché così non fa muore alla camera, ci sono tantissimi fattori che possono influire nel tema del corso. Il tema di che usino adeguatamente le differenti ferramenze sociali che hanno i nostri corsi. Noi dentro di ogni corso mettiamo a disposizione un blog, un foro, un Q&A e una wiki. Poi esterno alla piattaforma ci sono, ognuno disegna magari certe strategie di comunicazione e di contenuti nei differenti canali come Facebook e Twitter. Noi sempre diciamo ce l'hai a tua disposizione, ma questo non vuol dire che devi utilizzarli in un momento determinato. La gente pure si può sentire un po' appaurita perché non sa dove cercare, dove accedere a tutta questa informazione che si sta sviluppando in differenti canali. Quindi deve stare molto attenti a come si utilizzano queste ferramente. Un altro punto importante, per esempio, è dare un nome impactante al corso, così pure certamente cerchi l'engagement della gente. La presentazione sempre deve avere un video di presentazione che inviti gli studenti a matricolarsi nei nostri corsi, no? Il topico, la tematica del corso deve essere innovativa e avere certamente una particolarità pratica che la gente senta in certi casi, come questo corso determinare e sviluppare certo skill o certa conoscenza specifica. La qualità dei video e dell'audio è fondamentale in questo caso, stiamo parlando di materiale multimedia audiovisuale, quindi si deve cercare di guidare moltissimo la produzione audiovisuale. Qua io non ce l'ho scritto nella mia slide, ma per esempio tutto il tema dei Creative Commons. Noi dentro di una classe chiusa possiamo parlare, possiamo utilizzare referenze o vedere magari un film e poi riflessionare su questo film. Un entorno aperto non puoi farlo perché ci sono i diritti. Questo è un punto chiave che si deve cuidare sempre che uno disegna un corso. La durazione dei corsi certamente dipende dalla tematica, però noi già abbiamo diciamo, arrivato alla conclusione che non deve excedere le 6 settimane, a 4-6 settimane, perché gli studenti dedicano intorno a 10 ore alla settimana. E poi un punto importante è la calendarizzazione del corso, per evitare nella misura possibile che il calendario del corso vada compreso con il calendario magari dei corsi universitari o degli esami della gente, quindi si deve stare molto attento a come si pianifica il rate del corso. Io adesso vi vorrei fare vedere, per esempio, velocemente certi casi, no? Certi casi dei nostri professori di differenti università. Per esempio, c'è una professoressa che si chiama Maria Dolores Castillo dell'Università Nazionale Educazione e Stanza di Spagna, che lei ha avuto un corso in tedesco, German for Spanish Speakers Fundamental IDs. Qua vedete che lei ha avuto più di 19.000 iscrizioni, dei quali 15.000 hanno incominciato e 4.500 hanno finito. Diciamo che un 30% di quelli che hanno iniziato hanno finito il corso. E lei ci racconta la sua esperienza. Certamente avere più di 20.000 studenti in una classe allo stesso momento è un'esperienza unica per il professore. Quando si comincia a fare il corso, il professore diventa un instructional designer, nel momento che per scrivere lo scriptwriter, no? Già diventi un po' pratica un po' l'innovazione e la creatività. E certamente nel momento che il corso si apre, per dire, tutto deve essere strutturato. Nel momento che il corso si inizia, non si raccomanda che si cambi la struttura, si cambi il modello di evaluazione, si cambiano i documenti, perché può affettare certamente il sviluppo degli studenti.
Yuma, per cortesia mi senti? Siamo quasi arrivati alla fine del tempo dedicato al tuo intervento. Se riesci in pochissimi minuti ad arrivare in fondo a questa esperienza che ci sembra sicuramente interessante, ma purtroppo siccome anche la qualità dell'audio non è eccezionale, non possiamo purtroppo prolungare il tuo intervento quanto meriterebbe. Se riesci ad andare verso la conclusione in pochi minuti, ti siamo grati. Grazie Yuma.
Certo di sì, scusate. Beh, si può dire che i MOOC nell'educazione online hanno un potenziale altissimo. Si deve sempre garantire la qualità dei contenuti, video, della struttura del corso. Il tempo nel disegno del corso è fondamentale e certamente oggi per oggi si può dire che parliamo di che con i MOOC si sta democratizzando la cultura e la conoscenza. Quindi io vi invito a tutti, se avete la possibilità di partecipare in qualche esperienza MOOC, pure a modo personale, ve lo dico personalmente, come professori, è meraviglioso. Sentire che puoi stare in contatto con persone da differenti parti del mondo e che certamente per l'università e pure per il professore diventi come uno staff, dopo ti fermano per strada, io ho professori che ce la raccontano, no? E l'università certamente si progetta internazionalmente. Io vi invito a partecipare in questa esperienza che credo che ancora ci darà moltissimo per parlare. Vi ringrazio a tutti e una volta in più mi dispiace non essere potuta stare lì con voi. Se avete qualsiasi dubbio, avete qui il mio email o su LinkedIn pure mi potete trovare e sarò piacerissima di compartire con voi qualsiasi esperienza.
Benissimo, veramente ti ringraziamo per questo molto interessante intervento. Condivideremo online le tue slide in modo che ci sia la possibilità per tutti di ritornare con calma anche sulle parti che hai dovuto purtroppo svolgere velocemente. E ringraziandoti davvero ancora moltissimo per la tua disponibilità, diamo adesso l'inizio a questa sessione dedicata ai MOOCs. Invito il professor Pierpaolo Limone dell'Università di Foggia a raggiungermi, così come gli altri graditissimi ospiti che sono Monsieur Pablo Achard dell'Università di Ginevra, prego, Marc Lester di Future Learn, Madame Catherine Mongenet di FAN, l'iniziativa francese, e Monsieur Schumann di iVersity, Germania. Intanto che loro si accomodano, io mi levo da qui lasciando loro lo spazio. Vorrei prima di tutto ringraziare moltissimo sia la società SIEL presidente Minerva e la società Sierm, la professoressa Falcinelli, per averci dato l'opportunità di organizzare questa tavola rotonda, perché abbiamo la grande fortuna di avere qui oggi i rappresentanti davvero delle più interessanti iniziative in corso in questo momento in Europa, in Francia, in Germania, in Gran Bretagna, abbiamo sentito prima dalla Spagna, e abbiamo anche con noi la possibilità di vedere il punto di vista di un'università che è quella di Ginevra, che invece si è domandata se e come partecipare ad iniziative d'oltreoceano come Coursera o edX, e sentiremo il loro punto di vista. Il motivo principale che ci ha spinto a fare questa proposta di riflessione sui MOOCs è che pensiamo sia davvero un tema su cui le nostre università si devono interrogare, non tanto per la sua dimensione potenzialmente innovativa in termini metodologici, perché poi quando entriamo nel dettaglio delle metodologie che vengono proposte dai MOOCs, spesso ritroviamo cose già note, già sperimentate, tutto sommato non così sconvolgenti sul piano metodologico. Ma quello che sta cambiando veramente è lo scenario della domanda e dell'offerta. Cioè i MOOCs ci mettono di fronte ad una situazione in cui cambia e si esplicita una domanda di formazione che prima non era così esplicita. Cioè noi universitari, che abbiamo la grande capacità di vedere la pagliuzza, poi ci sfugge il tronco, vediamo i 100.000 iscritti e diciamo ma poi soltanto 10.000 arrivano in fondo. Ma quello che è interessante, a parte che i 10.000 sono interessanti, ma quello che dovrebbe colpirci tantissimo sono i 100.000. Cioè esiste una grandissima domanda di formazione che non è finora è stata esplicitata in modo così chiaro e che è composta in un modo completamente diverso rispetto al passato. Se guardiamo i dati che propone Coursera, che è l'organizzazione che ha messo a disposizione dati in modo più chiaro, vediamo che gli oltre 10 milioni di soggetti coinvolti in percorsi di MOOCs nelle varie situazioni statunitensi, europee, eccetera, sono costituiti intanto dal 40% di persone che vengono dai paesi in via di sviluppo. Sono costituiti per un gruppo importante da persone tra i 25 e i 40 anni, ma per il resto da persone che vanno dai 12-11 ai 60-70 anni. Quindi dal punto di vista demografico una popolazione che è insolita per noi come riferimento, come università, da persone che hanno un background in termini formativi molto vario, sicuramente molti laureati, molti con PhD, ma anche molti altri che hanno fatto percorsi diversi. Quindi una domanda che si sta esplicitando, che ha dimensioni importanti, che ha una valenza globale, importante questo 40% che vengono dai paesi in via di sviluppo, e che ha una articolazione in termini demografici e culturali molto ampia e diversificata. E la cosa interessante è che a questa domanda stanno rispondendo soggetti diversi da quelli tradizionali, perché noi quando pensiamo a Coursera di X, eccetera, pensiamo a Stanford, ad MIT, a università. In realtà sono start-up private, che seguono logiche private, che dialogano con i docenti e le università, ma come soggetti privati. E che oltretutto si muovono su scala globale, stanno lanciando anche iniziative in termini di riconoscimenti del tutto imprevedibili. Udacity, che forse è meno nota, ha lanciato tutta un'operazione di nano degrees, cioè di mini lauree, che vengono riconosciute direttamente da chi darà lavoro, dalle TNT, non passano più neanche dai riconoscimenti contrattati con il sistema tradizionale della formazione. Mi fermo qua per dirvi che i MOOCs per noi sono molto interessanti come istituzioni formative, perché ci mettono davanti al fatto che il mondo della formazione sta cambiando sia come domanda che come offerta, e il ruolo delle università in questo momento, delle università tradizionali, non è chiarissimo. Abbiamo sicuramente una strada da cercare. Su questo lascio la parola all'altro moderatore, professor Pierpaolo Limone dell'Università di Foggia.
Buongiorno. Io non vorrei rubare troppo tempo ai relatori, faccio soltanto due piccole riflessioni e poi passo la parola. Io innanzitutto sono Pierpaolo Limone, sono associato di pedagogia sperimentale all'Università di Foggia e mi sono sempre occupato di e-learning all'interno della mia università, però da un anno a questa parte me ne occupo in modo particolare perché il nostro Ateneo ha deciso di fare un grosso investimento sull'e-learning e sui MOOC, dedicando l'intero finanziamento della programmazione triennale 2013-2015 appunto all'e-learning e ai MOOC. Questo ci costringe, come piccolo Ateneo, a riflettere su che direzione dare a questo tipo di investimento, ma è una riflessione che in realtà non coinvolge soltanto l'Università di Foggia, a quanto pare, coinvolge il sistema italiano. La CRUI recentemente ha diffuso tra i rettori delle università italiane un documento che è denominato Prospettive e opportunità per le università italiane, e in questo documento la CRUI, in realtà il rettore Corradini dell'Università di Camerino insieme al rettore Zara dell'Università del Salento propongono di creare delle linee guida nazionali per la creazione dei MOOC, un osservatorio sui corsi resi disponibili dalle università italiane e sviluppare un accordo tra le università italiane per permettere agli studenti di usufruire di tali corsi e quindi riconoscere i crediti tra le diverse università. Questo primo documento evidentemente esprime un bisogno da parte delle università italiane di trovare uno spazio di riflessione appunto sulle politiche da adottare per il prossimo futuro sull'e-learning e sui MOOC in particolare. L'Italia è partita evidentemente in ritardo rispetto ad altri paesi sull'adozione dei MOOC, ma io direi che questo violento possa essere un'opportunità in realtà per guardarci intorno e progettare un modello di adozione di questi MOOC che sia informato sulle migliori pratiche internazionali. Su questo tavolo noi abbiamo già esperienze molto diverse, abbiamo le aziende, l'idea di iVersity, che è una startup che ha creato, che nasce per la produzione di MOOC. Abbiamo sentito poco fa un tipo di modello privato completamente differente, cioè delle grandi aziende che investono per creare MOOC come Telefonica in Spagna. Abbiamo il modello francese dove c'è invece un'agenzia nazionale finanziata dal Ministero dell'istruzione che ha deciso di creare un'università digitale e quindi ha investito nell'ultimo anno moltissimo anche nello sviluppo dei MOOC. E abbiamo il modello anglosassone con Future Learn, dove invece c'è un consorzio di università che si sono messe insieme per creare appunto le opportunità di produzione di open education resources che in Italia ancora mancano. La direzione da intraprendere evidentemente è quindi politica, perché dobbiamo capire, e anche economica, qual è il modello verso il quale noi intendiamo dirigere la nostra attenzione. E poi, come comunità scientifica, credo che questa opportunità, cioè il convegno di oggi e questa tavola rotonda, ci permettano di entrare in un dibattito importantissimo in questi mesi, proprio per dire il nostro punto di vista come studiosi su queste tematiche, quindi non solo un indirizzo politico, un indirizzo appunto della scelta del modello economico, ma riflettere sulla qualità di questi MOOC, cioè c'è un sistema di qualità che si può costruire intorno ai MOOC, come si inseriscono all'interno delle politiche dell'università, come si inseriscono come entrano in contatto con le politiche dell'Ambur, li andremo a considerare davvero come terza missione? Come funzionerà il trasferimento dei crediti? C'è una possibilità di acquisire dei crediti che siano spendibili all'interno dell'università o crediti che siano professionali e quindi spendibili nel mondo delle competenze professionali, quindi nella formazione professionale fuori dall'università? Che sistema immaginiamo? Un sistema badge di gamification dove ci sono dei badge per competenze? Saranno aggregati questi corsi? In che modo? Tutte queste domande credo che possano essere lo stimolo per la discussione di oggi e per il lavoro di questo convegno, e io mi auguro che si possano portare poi a sintesi delle proposte concrete da discutere nei tavoli appunto dove oggi si stanno prendendo queste decisioni, che sono appunto la CRUI, il Ministero, eccetera. Senza altri indugi, do quindi la parola al primo relatore, però forse era Susanna che doveva... Ok, il primo relatore in ordine, credo che... Scusate che lo trovo. Il primo relatore è Pablo Achard, dell'Università di Ginevra, che è qui accanto a me.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave this and find presentation somewhere around here. So thanks for the invitation. I have to say this is a milestone for me because it's the very first time I have live translation of what I'm saying, although I'm not sure. If something is not understandable, please do not blame the translator, blame me. I'm trying to give, sorry, I'm gonna quit the Skype. I'm trying to give a university perspective on this because I'm the only one coming from a university around this table, or at least representing a university here. And in the invitation, Susanna asked us to talk about a few topics she'd like us to hear, so context, strategy, develop activities, lessons learned, etc. So I really took it as an outline. I think I'm the only one, so please enjoy it. Exactly. So I'm starting with the context. Interestingly, the MOOCs in the University of Geneva did not come from e-learning unit or a pedagogy unit. I was working in a small unit that was devoted to foresight and strategic planning inside the rectorate. And that's where things started. It appeared very clearly to us very soon that MOOCs aren't a fad, a passing fad. They're not a revolution either, or not by themselves, but they are only the tip of a very big iceberg of changes happening in higher education. I've put a few keywords. I could speak 2 hours on this slide only, I think. But think about the development of internationalization, be it of institutions or people, development of lifelong learning, the massification at the global scale, the massification of higher education, and the coming massification we can predict. The rise of excellence and competition among universities, of course, development of e-learning, etc., etc. And these changes are not coming, so all this happened in the last 20, 30 years. This is not coming just because universities love to change themselves. I'm not even sure universities do love to change themselves. But there are high pressures from the external world. Development of what we know as knowledge economy, a big demographic pressure, be it with more and more young people at the world level, but also more and more old people who are not disabled and who are willing to continue to learn and have discovered new knowledge. Development of technology, of course, and internet is very crucial here. You can think of what is the role of a professor in an internet era. It's much changed. And new governance with the development of new public management in most Western countries. The context at the local level, so the University of Geneva, I've put this a little bit provocative sentence. It's one of the top 100 world universities. I know all the limits of rankings, but at least we are playing in a global field. It's a mid-sized university, about 16,000, 17,000 students, 10,000 lifelong learners, and these did not exist 20 years ago. 20 years ago, this number was around 100. It's a pretty wealthy university with a budget of something like 600 million euros per year. And when MOOCs arrived, it was not clear what MOOCs will become. It's still not clear, but we got this analysis. So what do we risk if we do MOOCs and this is a failure? And what do we risk if we don't do MOOCs and it is a success? And we thought, well, if we're wrong with top universities, it won't be a shame. There's not a big threat there. While if we miss the opportunity and try to catch up the train too late, it might be very difficult to repair. So we thought it was better to be actors of this movement than just spectators. The first strategic goals were not clearly defined. This is the goals I've understood from a conversation with the rector and vice rectors. These are the first goals. I've put them in a random order. So one is about the visibility of institution, but not only visibility, but also profiling. So visibility is a third bullet here with the peer platform. We are appearing on Coursera with some top universities. But we also want to push some courses on topics that are specific to our institution, be it because there is a strong link with international organizations or non-governmental organizations, which are very numerous in the Geneva area, or because of research strengths. We are also a comprehensive university, so we can go for a multidisciplinary way to tackle some issues. Another goal is to disseminate knowledge. We are a publicly subsidized institution, and one of our core mission is to disseminate knowledge not only to our students, but I would say to the whole world. So I often say that even if in 2 years from now we decide not to do MOOCs anymore, I don't think we're going to stop, but even in the very beginning, the money we spent on this won't be wasted, because educating people is really part of our mission, and it's never a waste of money. And improved teaching was also one of the goals, although we didn't know really well how this would happen through MOOCs, but I will come back later on this. Now, very recently, the deans and the rectorates asked me to really put the goals on paper, to clarify why we are doing MOOCs. And during discussion appeared two more goals, which are strengthening the international strategy of the university and promoting citizen science. So some guiding principles with partners. So with Coursera, there's a free hosting, so the university doesn't pay anything. And there's a share of revenues on our courses. There's no advertising or unwanted monetization. And there's some support for students with financial difficulties. Very importantly, the intellectual property remains ours, and it's non-exclusive. We can put a MOOC on Coursera and the same day have it on another platform without even asking. There's a control of what is done with the data, and the data is available for us if we want to study it. Principles with external partners, like private companies or international organizations or other institutions that want to make a MOOC with us. Because you have a stamp of universities, we want that the content is controlled by us, and the partnership should be approved by the rectorate. And about certification, I'm very short on this. I'm sure you will have plenty of questions, but for us, it remains the faculty's freedom, like any other educational material. So what are the developed activities? We started last academic year, 2013-2014, with 5 MOOCs. You can see 2 are in French and 3 in English. And they cover quite a variety of topics: law, science, management, theology, and medicine. And for these 5 MOOCs, we had something like 25 instructors involved. And this is, I think, an important point. I'll come back to it later. The second wave, we are currently preparing the second wave of MOOCs. We made a call for proposal. We got 5 more proposals last year. We selected, once again, with a more or less half in French, half in English, and on a wide variety of topics. And 3 more projects came during the year, mainly because we had some external partnerships. And we should take a rapid decision on those. We're also involved in a specialization. So a specialization on Coursera is an ensemble of 3 or more MOOCs. So students are free to take each MOOC independently or to take the full bundle of MOOCs. And in the end, they have a final project called Capstone Project. And so we are in a specialization on global affairs in collaboration with the Leiden University. The budget, the production of a MOOC costs about 50 to 60,000 Swiss francs, which is about 50,000 euros. It's very variable per MOOC, from MOOC to MOOC. Sorry. A good part of this budget goes for an assistant that helps professors developing the material. About 25% goes for shooting and editing. We have a partnership with the Swiss television, French-speaking Swiss television, and also with a small private company. I don't count on this budget, I don't count professors' time, which is impossible to evaluate. And I don't count the 1.5 full-time equivalent we are at the central level to coordinate all the MOOCs, as well as relationship with partners. There have been several side projects that have been developed, not by us, I mean, not by the central coordination team, but really by various internal actors. We'll have some flipped classroom starting this February for at least two of the courses. Our School of Translation has started last year to translate some MOOCs from English to French. We've not been very fast on pedagogical research, but now the pedagogy department is seeing that we are sitting on a big amount of data, and there are things to do there. They also propose to some students to develop games that could be included into some MOOCs. One of our translation professors did some experiments in a refugee camp led by the United Nations High Committee for Refugees to see how MOOCs could help training people in such fragile contexts. And we have collaboration with the Swiss television to try to improve the quality of the videos. The lessons learned, so concerning, I would say, visibility and dissemination of knowledge, we got a very high impact. Got something like 130,000 registered users, 10% of them very active, going to the statement of accomplishments. It is, as Susanna said, a very diverse audience, which is very interesting. There are some unexpected uses. I mean, you don't plan in advance, but we were contacted by a non-governmental organization working in the rural areas of Rwanda, training medical people there. And they asked us if we could send them hard copies of videos on the MOOC on global health, just to train their personnel there. We saw a lot of collaborations, be it with other universities, but also with local partners. You can include museums, for instance, or a lot of international organizations. They are really eager to participate in MOOCs. We got a lot of media coverage and interest from stakeholders, including politicians. On the teaching part, I've sometimes read that MOOCs are sub-quality courses. Actually, I like to quote this sentence from the Dean of the Faculty of Theology, who said that the MOOC on Calvin was the best MOOC of his faculty, just because, you know, there is so much pressure on the shoulders of professors because they are so visible, not only to a few students, but to thousands of people, including their colleagues that will watch the MOOC, but they do a lot to have high quality content. As you saw, we had 25 people involved in 5 courses, so it's an average of 5 instructors per MOOC, and this is not very common. We are used to collaboration in research, but not that much in teaching. Usually, you know, you say you're going to teach algebra 101, and the professor is teaching alone. So it's very interesting to see a whole department working together on a course. And it's not only a whole department, but as you saw, we also have specialists with other universities. So we start thinking about developing courses with international partners. Like we do a part of a MOOC on one of the strands, and you do another part and another MOOC on a closed topic, so that we can make a full curriculum together. The fact we have an unusual audience forces us, not enough yet, but it forces us to think a little bit differently on how you construct the course. Usually professors they know what the students, who the students are. So the starting point is well known. The point A of start is well known, and then you go to a point B, which is defined more or less as you walk down the course. Here, because the students are so diverse, you don't really know where your starting point is, and so you have to more clearly define where you want to go and what you want to transmit, what you want to teach. Also, the diversity in terms of countries forces you to see things with really a global eye on all these things, and provides case studies very interesting. Like, for instance, on the management MOOC, one of our professors was interested in public-private partnerships. She asked students if, for those who volunteered, to send a one-page on 2 minutes, gosh, I'm gonna cut this one. So 2.5 minutes, thanks. Okay, all this changed a lot of things, put teaching back into the light, and rebalance a little bit between teaching and research, for sure. That was the previous ones. On the MOOC production, I'm going to skip this one. What is the outlook? I think we still can improve on the use of the tools. So there are a lot of platform improvements that are coming ahead that we can use, but I think we will see more and more modularity into courses. We'll see more and more active learning strategies like gaming or others. More and more we will see a better use of the video. Currently the videos are very close to what a real class course is. You know, you film the professor speaking. Sometimes you have slides like I do, but you don't use that much media infographics, for instance, which has a real potential for explaining things more efficiently. On campus, we're gonna see flipped classroom, but there's also an interesting experience from our neighbors from Lausanne, where they put little groups of 3-4 students watching the MOOC together, and it looks like they love it because they can, when they don't understand the point, they can just stop it, discuss it together, and then continue. And actually, when they go back to the class, they are a bit disappointed. They cannot stop the professor anymore. One of the buzzwords you will more and more see in the future, I think, is unbundling of higher education. I won't go into details, but I invite you to read this very interesting report from MIT called since White Task Force on the Future of MIT Education. In the preliminary report is more interesting than the final report. The idea is that all these things that constitute the university experience can be done at different places at different time, and will more and more be so. But universities will rebundle things probably in a very different way. They will, I guess, continue to reinvent themselves as they always did, and certainly not disappear as some people feared or claimed recently. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. We actually decided to have a couple of questions after each presentation. We can have short question and answer time, and then we move to the other presentation. So, possiamo fare delle domande molto brevi e delle risposte altrettanto brevi dopo ogni intervento, perché poi vorremmo comunque avere una discussione generale alla fine. You agree? Una o due domande al massimo, perché, ripeto, poi se no non abbiamo il tempo per chiudere la sessione. C'è qualcuno che ha qualche curiosità da chiarire adesso? Okay, if not, we can skip to the other presentation. So the next one is Mark Lester from FutureLearn. He's the global head of academic partnership, if I'm not wrong, but he will present himself better. So please welcome Mark Lester.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'll try and be as quickly as go through this at some pace so that you're not too exhausted by the end of all of us talking. So, as I said, my name is Mark Lester. I'm Global Head of Education Partnerships at FutureLearn, which means I look after all of the relationships with our university partners, of which there's around 40 at the moment and climbing. And I also look after other relationships that we have with different companies and professional bodies and learning societies that we work with. So let me tell you a little bit about FutureLearn. I don't know how many of you will have come across us, but I assume in these places that not everybody has. So FutureLearn was founded by the Open University in the UK and is fully owned by the Open University, but we are a for-profit company. So the Open University decided they wanted us to be commercially minded to make sure we pay for ourselves, but they didn't want us to have the pressure of venture capital funding so that we put any of the university's brands and their brand at risk. So that's the basis on which we started. And we launched in December 2012. And we built the platform, a brand new platform. We looked at Moodle, we looked at all the other things that are out there, and we said none of them work for us. So we built a brand new platform, which was taking the best of what the Open University knows about distance learning and supported distance learning. And we blended that with experts from online and mobile and media industries. So our CEO is Simon Nelson. He's from the BBC. He set up the iPlayer, which is their digital player and their digital radio services. And the teams that we have are from BBC and media industries. So the whole user experience is there from the world of industry. And the idea is by bringing the real pedagogy that the OU has developed and great user experience from industry, we could develop something of very, very high quality. And the thing that was crucial in all of this was we wanted to make sure it was built for mobile, and we also needed to make sure the platform supported what we call the best of the social web, Web 2.0. So lots of problems with existing virtual learning environments, VLEs. They don't really support instant messaging or community building and all of those kind of things that now modern day users do and work with. So how do we do that? Here are 26 UK university partners. The notable exceptions in this group are Oxford, Cambridge, and the top London universities who are still making up their minds about what they do. But we have most of the top UK universities in our portfolio. And we've recently brought in a number of international universities, Trinity College Dublin, Oslo, University of Groningen in the Netherlands, Fudan and Shanghai Jiao Tong, Yonsei, SKKU, Cape Town, Monash, and Auckland. But there's many others in Europe we just haven't announced yet. So we very much see ourselves as a global platform with a UK and European heart. We've also partnered with major cultural institutions. So amongst our partners are the British Library, which is actually where our offices are, the British Council, and the British Museum. And what we do with these partners is actually they offer their content up to universities. So we work with the British Museum and British Library who develop exhibitions. They have unbelievable archives, and we get them together with universities to create fantastic courses that they can use then with their own students as well as with the world at large. Our other sort of partnerships we've been developing are with professional institutes. So the ACCA is the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. It's a big professional accountancy body. They work with us and they've developed a course with the University of Exeter, which actually gives you, the students, if they take an exam, an exemption from the first professional exam of that institution. So it is a new kind of model. I think it builds on something that was mentioned by Susanna about Udacity, but it's the idea of new forms of credentialing around MOOCs, and we're trying to innovate around that space with partners. And we also have other partnerships with the BBC, which is actually with the universities themselves, because the BBC won't work with a for-profit. But for one of the projects we've worked on is the BBC has developed courses, 4 courses to commemorate World War I. And basically they filmed all the video productions for the courses with those partners, and they continue to work with our partners on new courses coming up. And that's the kind of things that we do with our university partners and offer to them, these opportunities to collaborate. So now what I want to get into is actually, though, the platform, which is very different and has been deliberately very different from what was developed by the pioneers in Coursera and Udacity and edX. So when we set up, as I said before, we work with the best of the industry to get a delightful user experience. We want this to be consumer facing. In the end, consumers want and have high expectations. They transfer their experience from Amazon, from other places that they buy and regularly go to online, to your own courses, and they transfer that expectation to them. So we have set out to develop something that is of very, very high quality in all respects. And the key thing that we've tried to differentiate is on our pedagogical approach. So you've heard from Pablo that Coursera started with mastery learning, is their basis. edX talk about active learning, but these are mostly personalized experience. It's the fundamental assumption is that the learner is working through delivered material with some support through forums and other students and the academic, but it's not truly taking advantage of what we believe that social constructivism is all about, which we believe in. And under that social constructivist umbrella are a few key theories and proven theories about how people learn that we've tried to embed in the platform. So at the top right, conversational learning theory, pioneered by Gordon Pask and Diana Laurillard from the Open University. And here it's the idea that people learn through discussion. Yes, they have this great material that the academic and the university can deliver that stimulates discussion, that can stimulate discussion, that presents concepts and ideas, but it's through interaction together, either with the student and the tutor, or the students with themselves, that helps them build understanding and apply understanding. They create meaning together through discussion. So what we focused on is how do you take advantage of the massiveness of the course to help students interact and to get a much better learning experience through dialogue rather than on their own. The other things on another one at the bottom right, zone of proximal development. Vysotsky and others have came out with this idea and have proven that people learn from somebody slightly better than themselves. Not too far advanced, so you don't understand them, not too below them because they won't relate. So how can you connect people who are just slightly better and help that other person learn? And I'm looking at the left-hand side, you have things around knowledge sharing, so people passing their experience. That's another way people learn. And vicarious learning, which is what a lot of people do, reading the comments of others. So you need to try and get all of these proven theories embedded in the platform in operating in some way. And that's what we've tried to do from the very beginning. So with our product, we have 4 elements to the vision we created at the beginning. Inspiring learning for life. We knew this is, as Pablo's already mentioned, this is something for lifelong learners. This is something that should be mobile, it should be everywhere for people to enjoy. It's about telling stories. This is bringing the media experience in from our side of the company. It's provoking conversation, the pedagogy that's coming in, and celebrating progress, which is key. So visible learning is an absolute fundamental area that every course should aspire to and every platform should aspire to, which is encouraging people to go through the course and to recognize success in small bites and at the end. So for Learning for Life, what did we do? We built the platform, as I said, mobile first. We work across device seamlessly. Every course will work perfectly on each one. And that's very important for the developing world, but it's increasingly important as 20% of our users are accessing courses on their tablet or smartphone on the go. Telling stories has a couple of areas that we try and encapsulate. One is navigation. So the advantage of coming second and watching what others' platforms have done means that we knew where things had gone wrong. So navigation is really clear and simple, and we've tried to create a very simple linear structure to our courses. So on the left-hand side, you'll see we structure courses into weeks. A week is where you have a clear set of learning objectives. And within a week, you have activities. And activities are made up of a few steps. And the step is watching a video, reading an article, having a structured discussion, doing an assessment or a quiz or something. And those are your Lego bricks, your pedagogical Lego bricks. You mix and match those steps to create the learning outcome within that activity. And those activities form the overall outcome. And it's designed deliberately, and the tools that the educators have are all built around this. So it's very simple to use, and it also provides a very clear way for people to go through the course. And the use of blue to pink, it helps people know where they are. So and whenever you go, if you go out of the course and you come back, it always takes you to where you last were, and you can see what's coming up. You can see the to-do list of things that you need to do. So it's all about clear navigation. Take the complexity out of the course design. Then we have provoking conversation. So this is where that pedagogy comes in. And one of the things that we did that we knew was important was to not break discussion from content. The biggest mistake that you can really do, and we've seen, that kills conversation is by having the two separate. So at every step of the course, if it's a video or an article, people can open up into a full discussion about that particular piece of content. And then, and we're getting fantastic rates of engagement, which I'll talk about in a second. But then it's about filtering that content. So how do we do that? So this is where the Web 2.0 comes in. I'm just going to jump back between the slides. But you set up a profile on FutureLearn. And in that profile, then you can follow other people. And you can have replies to other people. And you can filter all of those conversations in your own area. So when we go back to the previous slide, all that conversation, you get hundreds of comments coming in around that particular piece of content. How do you make the best of that conversation to work for the learner? Well, you filter it. So we filter on most liked. You can like a particular comment, so they're voted up, and then you can filter the conversation by the most popular discussions and read them and then contribute. we can now filter on who you're following. So if you're following people because you learn most, that's the zone of proximal development, you can then filter the conversations to only look at their comments and reply to them. Or you can filter it on your own comments, so you can just look at the conversations you're involved with. So it all helps to have those discussions. And what we're all about is helping learners have good conversation. Celebrating progress, we've only just started with this, but this is a chance for learners to, they can track where they are, how many steps they've gone through the course, how many are left, and how many, what their test scores were. And we've pioneered some real innovation. So we've not done peer assessment, we've done peer review. We think the formative assessment is far more valuable, and it's a really clear process that's working very well. It's 3 steps. You do a review, you do your own work, your assignment, it goes on a pile, and you get given other people's work to review against a rubric or criteria that are set by the educator. And people are responding, they're giving that feedback, and you keep doing it, and then you get your own. And what we're finding is, in peer review, from the 8 courses that started with this, people are getting a review within 3 hours. That's almost, it's rapid feedback that they're getting on their work. They're submitting 298 words on average. So they're getting about 79, 80 words back from other learners. And most of them, the majority will get 2 reviews. They'll definitely get 1. It's 1.6 on average. And people love it. And what we're building now isn't a chance for people to then discuss their review with the person who reviewed them. So, because they're having those discussions on the next step anyway. So we might as well support it. And now the performance. So what have we done so far? So in a year since we started, we've got 750,000 sign-ups, growing about 15,000 a week and more. And they're doing over 2 courses each. We've got an increasingly loyal base. So it started off at 2 courses. It's now it's a very accelerating upward trend. So they're moving up to 3 courses each. They love the courses. I think there's similar statistics on other platforms, but ours are very, very strong. They would all mostly recommend Future Learn to a friend, and there's lots of courses getting 100%. But where we're really different is in the engagement. And this is where it validates the approach to learning. So we looked at the first 21 courses in 2014. 225,000 joined, of which 56% turned up. That's common. They advertise them about 12, 14 weeks in advance. Of those learners that turned up, 85% did something. We know, because they have to mark steps as complete. So if they watched a video, they mark it as complete and then move on. 46% did it in multiple weeks. And then 22%, what we call fully participated. So we've set a very high burden for people to complete, as others call it. You have to do at least half of the steps on a course. So you have to mark 50% of the steps of the course complete. And you have to do all of the tests. You have to have attempted all of them, including the one at the end. So 22% are really heavily engaging with the course. And the other side that makes the social learning, how we've made that work, is 38% on average of our learners are making comments, and the average of about 7 comments per learner. I know that this statistic is very, very high compared to other platforms. It's testament to what we've already developed, and it's still early days in what we've done, and we continue to build that number. But I think it's a validation of the fact that our belief that learning really happens when people start to talk, and it plays out in the comments that we get. And the advantage of the MOOC platforms, as we've all heard, this is a very sophisticated market. There are people who are graduates and postgraduates and professionals, in fact, the majority. So the commentary, the experience, and the knowledge that these learners have is far more, in fact, collectively, than any educators can provide. So by enabling the richness of your learners to come out, to be used by others, and to stimulate debate amongst themselves means that you multiply by many factors the amount of content and material there is to engage with and learn. And that's the true value. It's not thinking of us as universities as people who deliver the expertise. It's how do you unlock the expertise as a huge, sophisticated community to help each other. And that's what we've been about.
Thank you. Thank you. Impressive, actually. Ci sono domande? Queste due presentazioni già in realtà sono talmente interessanti che fanno venire domande. La prima domanda dal tavolo, la seconda la faccio io se non la fate voi. Please.
Actually, I have a question to Mark, because as you said, you have a high number of people engaging in conversation. What do you do with this conversation on the next run? When you rerun a MOOC, on the second run, do you keep some of the comments, or do you completely clear the forums?
So each run of the course, so the question again was, when a course is finished, what happens to all the comments by the learners that were made? So the first thing is, all the comments that our learners make are published on a Creative Commons license. So they're non-commercial. So it's free for the community to take those comments and use in a non-commercial way, but attributed to the learner. But actually, for the next run of the course, it's a brand new course. But the people who already registered on the original one can go back. So it still lives. And people are free to revisit and see the comments. The universities are taking the comments. They download all of them, and it's free to use to improve the design of the course. So that's primarily, and to do research, and actually some of them are deliberately doing research using the MOOCs to do that with a large audience. But they keep them, and the course runs again, because our courses, we see them as an event. This is a moment in time where people will go through a course together, and they do. 75% stick with the week they're supposed to be in to talk to the learners and the educator at that point. So it's not useful to keep all the comments from the previous one, because actually very, very different discussions will happen with a different group of people. And it's that diversity that means actually doing the course for a second time means that you'll probably learn something you didn't learn the first time, because the people are different. But none of the comments are lost.
Altre domande? Si avvicina. Abbiamo un microfono, guardi.
Thank you. You said that one of the main principles is celebrating progress. So, and you track progress during courses. My question is, do you also use badges? Are you also doing some research to understand whether that has consequences on motivation?
It's a very good point. So as I said in the presentation, we're probably in the early days of our celebrating progress. It's something we know we need to do. So badges is something we haven't implemented yet, but we want to. I mean, it's just about making sure we get the development time to get it in there in a way that works. I mean, the Open University has worked with Mozilla and others to develop badges on their Open Learn system. And I mentioned the Open University because they own us. So they've done a lot of work of thinking about how badges, and they do motivate. There's no question. And we're seeing that social networks like LinkedIn are trying to incorporate courses and ways to celebrate more publicly. And you've got a whole industry about building up with a Credible and degree.com, all trying to take non-formal and informal learning and try and credential it in some way. So there's a recognition of its value to learners, to potentially to employers, but I think we haven't implemented it just yet.
Avevamo pensato di fare solo un paio di domande adesso e poi spostare la discussione dopo, però non lo so se forse, visto che abbiamo il break tra un po', potremmo avviare la discussione, facciamo 2 o 3 altre domande, non esaurite però tutte le domande, ecco, facciamo un paio di altre domande e poi facciamo un break per il caffè. Quindi Paola e... Perfetto. Prego.
Hi, I have just, these are small questions about details. If you can give me a quick answer so that others can ask other things. So, The first thing I have doubts about is if it's proper or not using popularity ranks for filtering discussions in pedagogic scenarios, because moderators know best the matters than the ones that are participating. So what is more important to put in as important, really important questions from the point of view of the teachers, or if you are using just natural ranking statistics that will always put as the most important the same discussion? That's a doubt I have about all social network schemes. So I would like your position. And the second question was about self-market completion. So you are presenting statistics based upon what students declare they have done, or about really tracked completion algorithms for the courses?
So on the first question, which is basically, if I understand, is it the academic, should we be, who's more valuable, the comments from the academic educator or things voted up by learners, which the implication is that things that learners may vote up may be popular but not accurate. So I actually think that because we have an erudite audience that actually, and you have thousands or hundreds at a time looking at the comments, I think actually they tend to get it right and they vote up things. It's not voting up things about facts, it's voting up opinions and argument and where people are agreeing. And it just means that there's a more, you get to see a vibrant discussion and where the most vibrant discussion is happening. The role of the educator is to come in and guide and try and course correct some of those discussions. It's not to assume that they are the fountain of all knowledge and can direct. Most courses that we've had run, the educator has said they've learned an awful lot from their learners because they're professionals themselves. So a course on cancer had as its learners researchers in cancer, oncologists, patients with cancer, carers of cancer, nurses who are specialists in cancer. You can't assume as an educator that you know more than the combined wisdom of those. I think what we all know is, I think when I was doing a teacher training, they said that the class teacher's role is that of chief learner. And I think that's what the educator is on these. I think there's room for everybody to learn, to probe and challenge each other. Second question is about the statistics. So the statistics on participation is self-declared. So that's what we know. They press the button. They don't have to press the button. They do. So if anything, we're underreporting. But we also have all the statistics. We know exactly where people have come out of a course and what they've done. We just we use those to come up to our figures here. So it's what we can't track and what nobody tracks is how much of people learnt. And that's the key thing that we want to get into next.
Grazie. Abbiamo due ottimi traduttori, quindi se volete fare le domande in italiano, loro possono tradurle ai nostri ospiti.
Please, can you give us a more clear idea about your accession policy for participating institutions outside the UK? For example, can Italy participate to Future Learn? Can you host a MOOC from Italy, for example?
So we can host, we do host courses from universities and from anywhere. We have to limit the number who come in. As like others, we're a startup. We actually have a certain budget and capacity. But we are looking at alternative ways to expand participation. And I think those are things that I'll, for people who want to get in touch and see what's possible with us, I encourage anybody to do so because things are changing in this very quickly.
Chiudiamo qui, se la professoressa Falcinelli è d'accordo, ci muoviamo per il caffè. Giusto un quarto d'ora, 15 minuti? 15 minuti e poi ricominciamo perché altrimenti non riusciamo.
No, se siete voi.
Mentre i colleghi si posizionano, volevo ricordarvi due cose. La prima è che ancora qualche minuto se qualcuno vuole iscriversi alla cena sociale, in modo che io poi posso dare il numero definitivo. La seconda che il pranzo più o meno intendiamo farlo verso le 1:30, avremo un'ora quindi per il lavoro, e ci troviamo tutti nella piazzetta davanti al Dipartimento, perché poi veramente 100 metri vi accompagno al luogo dove mangeremo, va bene? Abbiamo già mangiato, però pensiamo al dopo.
Grazie. Bene, ben rientrati, riprendiamo i lavori di questa tavola. Ricordiamo il titolo: La conoscenza come bene comune e prospettive dell'istruzione superiore nell'età della conoscenza aperta e flessibile. Abbiamo visto nella prima parte della mattinata le esperienze molto interessanti sviluppate sia in area ispanica grazie al sostegno di Telefonica. Abbiamo visto il caso di Miriada X, poi l'esperienza dell'Università di Ginevra con Coursera e infine anche molto interessante l'esperienza invece realizzata in Gran Bretagna da Future Learn. Ora cambiamo prospettiva, andiamo in Francia con Madame Catherine Mongenet di FAN, che ci racconterà la loro esperienza. Prego.
Grazie. Good morning, everyone. I'm very, very pleased to be here and to share the French experience with you. So I'm in charge of this initiative that was launched by the Ministry of Education last year as a policy officer. And before going straight away to the MOOC initiative, I would like to show you how this initiative is part of a wider project that the minister launched last year. So, sorry, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, okay. So when we started the project last year, we were not really concerned only by a MOOC platform and a MOOC initiative. We were really concerned by defining a digital agenda, a strategic agenda for French higher education institutions. So this digital agenda, which has been presented in October last year, is really focusing on four major orientations, four major topics. The student success, of course, and when we talk about students now, we obviously talk about, initial student and lifelong learner students. So this is this whole question of how the students are taken care of from their initial studies and way back to when they come back to universities to learn again. Of course, we know that digital technology are transforming education, and so the other main focus of this agenda is to encourage innovative teaching, innovative practices in teaching and learning. The third main issue of this global agenda for digital for higher education is really to develop connected campuses. We all know that this is also very important, to have good campuses to welcome the students, for them to work with their computers, laptop and everything. And then, of course, last but not least, one of the main issue of this agenda is to reinforce the attractiveness of French universities, both in the Francophone world, which is a big issue for France, and at the international level. So this digital agenda is built out of 18 actions, which covers all the subjects of digital technologies back to the infrastructure, we have to have state-of-the-art infrastructure, efficient information system, of course, all the way to changing curricula using better, in a better way, technologies in teaching and learning. Along the way, of course, there is a focus on research on higher education, because we know that because of we have all these material, all this data, we have to use them in from a research point of view to improve our teaching and our learning. And then one of the other issues of this agenda is concerned with the buildings. We know that there is a huge transformation to be done in universities, because people will come at the university waiting for something different. You will teach differently. You will have to change the classroom organization. You will have to provide new spaces for the student to come on campus, stay on campus, work on campus. So you have to rethink your libraries. You have to do many things about those questions of how the buildings and how the organization of the university has to be changed because of these major changes that digital technology provide today. And of course, there is a strong focus on cooperation with the private sector, because we know that this cooperation between public and private, that is going to be a key issue for transforming a higher education institution. Okay, and among these 18 actions, one is concerned with, curricula, and how curricula will be transformed, should be transformed, using digital technologies. And we are not talking only about MOOCs, of course. We are talking about how on-campus blended learning can improve the way students learn and the way teachers teach. We are talking of the development of new curricula, new online curricula, both from the Francophone student and for the continuous education, for lifelong learning education. And on the way, there are the MOOCs, and we did focus on the MOOC, as I will tell you in a minute. And of course, we know that there will be no transformation of the curricula if we do not help the professors, if we do not help the academic to transform their pedagogy, to transform the way they will teach. So there is also in these 18 actions, strong action on how do we help academic to learn to teach differently. And the second action is how do we help academic to, how do we help the career of academics with teaching? Because in the French higher education system, as it was mentioned before by Pablo, teaching is not really the main issue when you want to have a career as a professor. Research is the main issue. So there is also a very strong action in the agenda to try to change the rules in the French system for education, teaching being more recognized in the career of academics. And so we started this MOOC platform, which is called FUN, for France Université Numérique. And I'm now going to focus on this issue and present shortly this initiative. So in May last year, in May 2013, a couple of French institutions were starting to create their MOOCs. And they were wondering where they would put those MOOCs, on which technology, on which platform they would put those MOOCs. Some of them didn't really want to go on the American platforms. And they really wanted to have a shared platform that they could use, so they would focus on what is their real job, that is build in attractive contents, build attractive MOOCs. So the idea was really to try to figure out how we could build a shared platform for French higher institution, for French higher education institution that would be hosted in France. Because as you know, well, last year there was big controversy about data privacy with these NSA problems, and French people are really concerned by where the data are. So there was really a strong concern about having a platform that was hosted in France. When you say that, you're not really done, because the point was, which technology should we choose? In May last year, there was no real consensus on which technology we should choose. And the university were telling us at that moment, well, the technologies are not mature enough. Let us experiment on different platforms and we'll see. And the 1st of June last year, as you probably know, the edX consortium released its code called OpenEdX in open source. And so a couple of French institutions started to install this solution on their laptops, servers, whatever. And by mid-June, they had a different analysis of the situation, and they all told us that if we want to do something useful, that's the solution that we should use. This is an open source solution. It should be really improving greatly among the future months and future years. There is a strong belief in the French higher education institution that open source technologies are important. So that's the way we did it. So we worked with a couple of public institutions in France. One, INRIA, is the Research National Institution for Computer Science, so it was in charge of the software. CINES is a French institution based in the south of France. It's a big data center for higher education. So we have there a private cloud for the FUN platform. And then we worked with Renater. Renater is a national provider for a network for French higher institution, whether universities or research labs. We worked closely with experts from the French universities. We decided to go fast. The minister wanted this platform. As soon as the decision was taken by the minister in July, she said, let's have this solution very, very before Christmas. Let's have it in October. So we really worked on a very agile mode with very short delays. We launched the project in July with all those partners and our French experts. The platform was released in October with the first 25 MOOCs of the first institutions. And of course, those MOOCs started in January because we let a couple of months, as our colleague from Myriadex pointed out, we have to give months for the registration to come on. Okay, so basically FUN. So it's a platform for the French higher education institution. About French higher education institution because, as you know, in France we have university and we have what we call grandes écoles. So all those kinds of institutions are coming on FUN. The objective is for FUN to host the MOOCs of those institutions. Each of those institutions is responsible for its editorial policy. However, we really work on quality measures. We have a quality charter that each institution signed before coming on the platform. And we provide to the different teams different type of licenses. Some of them are Creative Commons licenses. Some of them are more restrictive licenses because some universities were not ready to go with the Creative Commons licenses. Of course, you probably know in France we have a very strong national organization for data privacy, which is called the CNIL. And so we really have a very strong declaration saying that the confidentiality of the data, the learners of the data is really protected. However, as I mentioned before, there is a big issue on using those data, analyzing those data to improve the research in higher education, in e-education. So we also declared at this national organization that we will anonymize the data to provide those data to research labs who want to work on them. And we started to work with startup in France because the technology is what it is today. We have to improve the learner experience, the user experience, of course, and we have a very strong environment of French startups that do work in digital technologies and that have nice solutions that could be plugged with the OpenEdX solution. So we work with those companies to improve, to connect the solution with the platform and to improve the learner and the teacher's experience. So I would like to give you now some figures on what we have been doing. So as I said, we started last October with 24, 25 MOOCs. we had 25 MOOCs in October, but one of it decided to be launched after the first term. So that's why you have only 24 there. So as you see, we have a nice increase of the number of MOOCs and a nice increase of the number of institutions. We don't have visibility later than March 2015 because all the universities are still in the process of building their MOOCs and they haven't come to us. So we know that it's going to keep growing, but we don't really have all the information to provide you with data about that. A very important point for us, of course, is to see that the universities are really engaging themselves in, playing the MOOCs again and again. So as you can see, we already have MOOCs that have been run in let's say March or April this year that have already started in September. And most of the first 36 MOOCs have already planned their second run. Some of them has even planned their third run. In terms of fields, so we have a very large variety of fields. I will show you a couple of pictures later on these different MOOCs that we have in the different fields. This is just a picture of the universities, grandes écoles, whether engineer school or business school that are joining the initiative. So as you can see, quite a lot of institutions. On the bottom, these are some of the startups we are working with. And I didn't mention it, but we did quite a lot of work last summer in 2013, so that the videos are hosted on a French platform, which is called Dailymotion, because the minister didn't really like the idea of having the videos on YouTube. Okay, in terms of fields, so we started with many MOOCs in digital technologies, IT. Now we have new domains coming up. The entrepreneurship domain is really a new domain that we have been starting this fall. However, we did have in February 2 MOOCs on management, new MOOCs as well on economy and international affairs. Deuxième session, you understand session in English? Session, yeah, of course. So second session, okay, sorry. So as you can see, some of the MOOCs are already planning their second session. We had law professors very active last year. So we had a couple of MOOCs on law that had been running in the spring. They are planning their second session, but they are not on the platform yet. We have a couple of MOOCs on health. These MOOCs are on public health, and they have been built jointly by a French university, which is called Paris Descartes, and a German university, which is called La Charité à Berlin. And so those MOOCs have been built jointly. They have been launched in 3 different languages, French, German, and English, and they are mainly focusing on public health. The objective is not to have initial education, but to have lifelong learning education, and especially to help people working in health all around the world to improve their knowledge and competencies. Of course, we have lots of MOOCs in IT, as I said before, new MOOCs coming up, and a lot of second sessions that are already planned. Some of them have already started. We also have MOOCs in sciences. We started with a couple of MOOCs, and as you can see, we have many MOOCs, many new MOOCs coming up this fall. We also have MOOCs in humanity, not as many in the other field, but still some projects are going on. Environment is a big issue for us as well. And we have a series of MOOC, which is, in my opinion, quite interesting, on education. Enseigner et former avec le numérique would be translated like teaching and learning with digital technologies. And so this is a series of MOOC. One is a general MOOC, one is focusing on math, the other one is focusing on languages, The last one is focusing on training adults. And those MOOCs are built jointly with two Écoles Normales Supérieures in France, who are in charge of education for teachers. And they work with these schools that we have in universities to train future teachers. And we also built with this institution a MOOC to learn how to do MOOCs. This one here, the last one, Monter un MOOC de A à Z. It's a MOOC on MOOC. Okay, now these are the figures as there was last Monday when I had to send my presentation. So of course, most of the MOOC on the Fun platform today are in French. Only one institution decided to have two MOOCs in January, one in French, one in English. This institution is Sciences Po, but all the other MOOC are in French. So of course, the figures in terms of enrollments are smaller when you have MOOCs in French than when you have MOOCs in English. And some of the institutions who have MOOCs on Coursera have the same figure on Fun than they have on Coursera with their MOOC in French. So as you can see, we have more than 400,000 enrollments, which altogether is more than 225,000 learners. The average number on MOOCs, sorry? Yes, so the Susanna was telling me that this figure is very interesting. As you can see, but it was mentioned by Pablo, it was mentioned by Mark, the learners on Fun, as well as on many other platforms, are from all ages, with a strong focus, of course, on the 25, 50 years old people. As in terms of gender, we have a little bit more men than women. Of course, this is not equally done on all the MOOCs. Huh? If you focus on IT MOOCs, then it's terrible because the number of women drops to 15%. And as you can see, and both of the previous speakers also, and you told it as well during your presentation, we have people with degrees already. As you can see, more than 50% of the learners have a bachelor or a master or even a thesis. Okay, and the last figure we are very interested in is this one, because we have on Fun more than 12% of African people, and this is naturally something that we are really very interested in. And if I didn't put it the map where I would zoom on Africa, but of course, if you zoom on Africa, then you will see that the most important number of learners are in the Maghreb countries and in the sub-Saharan Francophone countries. Okay. Now, I would like to focus on a point. Fun is not just a platform, not just a technology. It's also a community that we have been building over the last year and a half. We started last August by asking all the universities and grandes écoles to designate representatives that will work with us. So we have currently a network of 200 MOOC representatives in 150 French higher education institutions that we work closely with. We started training session a year and a half ago now. No, a year, last September, last September. So 14 months ago, I believe. Yeah, and we have trained 200 people. Of course, we know that building a MOOC is a long journey and that not everyone is prepared, especially not the professors. So we really started last July in 2013 to work with the experts that have been part of the team to build methodological guidelines, best practices. So we do provide to the team when they said they want to put a MOOC on Fun, documents to help them to create the MOOC, to help them to do it in a proper way. We, of course, have regular training with the teams, with video conferences. We, as I said before, had a huge work, quite difficult with PI experts to provide document and support on intellectual property. We have a online support team to help both the teams of academics and the learners. We set up a couple of working groups because we know that there are many subjects that have been covered. We have an organization for the universities to be part of the project with different committees. And we are also organizing a couple of participatory events. And I don't know if you have heard of the MOOC camp that we have organized last year and last June. It's a nice event that you put together people coming from different backgrounds, either students or professors or people from the industry or people from association, and then you work for a day to try to imagine the MOOC of the future. So it's also a way to, help the community to know better what a MOOC is and to know better of this sort of initiative. Okay, so this is my last slide. I would like to give you some perspective on our short-term project. Of course, one big issue for us is the international development. So a couple of information on that topic. In January this year, we signed a partnership with AUF. AUF is Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie. So it's a national agency. It's an international agency for Francophonie. So all the universities of the Francophone world are part of this association. So in this partnership, this association is helping developing countries, French-speaking developing countries, to build MOOC. They launched a tender early this year, and they are helping with fund 6 MOOCs from 1,000 countries, Vietnam, Morocco, Tunisia, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And so those MOOCs are currently built by those teams in these different countries. And in our partnership, those MOOC will come on the fund platform early 2015. And we help training those teachers by a week-long training period that occurred a month or so ago in Tunis. We will also host very soon MOOCs from a Belgium university, and there is a project with a Swiss university, which is Université de Genève, because the MOOC on Ebola that Pablo mentioned is in fact a MOOC that is built jointly by a professor from a French professor who is now a professor at the Université de Genève, but he is working with colleagues in France. So this MOOC will be done jointly, and the first session of this MOOC will be on the fund platform in January. There is another point which is very important for us. It's this question of not only creating MOOCs that are useful for Francophone people all around the world, but to build MOOC jointly between French professors and, let's say, African professors. There is one MOOC that is already on the platform and that is very successful, which is a MOOC on hydrology. And this MOOC is built by teams from 5 different countries, French-speaking people, all of them, and some of those professors working on the team, which is coordinated by people in Grenoble in France, are from Vietnam, for instance. So we have the feeling that this is very important to really help our colleagues to build MOOC jointly with other colleagues all around the world. And there is a new MOOC on the platform right now, which is a MOOC on mathematics, which is created jointly by Cédric Villani, which maybe you have heard of him. It's a very famous mathematician in France. He won in 2010 the field medal in mathematics, and he is currently building this MOOC jointly with a colleague in Africa. Okay, now our other project is, of course, to work on certification. Right now, when a professor decides that he wants to give certificate to its students, he can do it, but it's not at that moment a verified certificate. So we do provide, let's say, simple certificate. How would you call them in English? In French, we call them attestation de réussite. Okay? Certificate of achievement. Let's say certificate of achievement. But of course, there is a huge demand for certification, true verified certification. So we have started to have experiment with a couple of universities for a few MOOCs. Of course, we know that there are organizations that help universities to have online certification using proctoring solutions. So we have been testing this with a company. But we also know that there are many people around the world that cannot take an online exam because the network, the bandwidth is not good enough to provide a good way to do the certification online. So the second very important issue for us in our partnership with AUF, Association for Francophonie, is to work with them on-site exam for certification, because as you probably know, this association has campuses all around the world in Francophone countries. So we have been able to work with them to provide on-site, on-campus certification for those students, especially in Africa, who cannot have their online certification. I'm just, if I have 1 minute, okay, just give you a figure that I feel it's quite important. In June, we ran a survey for all the learners who wanted to answer the surveys. We asked quite a few questions. I'm just going to focus on one question. Are you interested in certification? The average answers are 50%. When we focused on people who are looking for a job, unemployed people, the number of people in this category who wanted a certificate raised to 66%. And when we focused on African people, this number is raised at 82%. So there is really a very important issue for many people around the world to get verified certificate for those MOOCs. Okay, and we start thinking of series of MOOC. You all know that a MOOC is a short piece of knowledge, it's a small course, and there are issues of building series of MOOCs that will provide a more broader set of knowledge and competencies. The first one is this learning and teaching series that I was talking about, but we are really trying to work on that subject. Of course, we do have institutions that think about what should we do with those MOOC in the future, and we have experiments of flipped classroom. Some of them are quite interesting because we have engineer schools that work in a network, and right now, some of the MOOCs that have been built by one institution of this network are used in another school in this network in a flipped classroom. So this is something we are really looking very, very closely. And of course, the last issue is MOOC for lifelong learning education. And I didn't have time to mention it, but the MOOC that was very, very successful on fun with more than 36,000 students was a MOOC on management. And as you can imagine, the average age on this MOOC was really quite high. It was basically people working, and they were really coming on this MOOC for lifelong learning education. And they've been pushing us very hard to give certificates and to recognize these certificates in their companies. Thank you.
Davvero grazie Madame Augenier per questo interessantissimo intervento. Abbiamo qualche domanda? Prego. Ricordo che le domande possono essere anche poste in italiano perché verranno poi tradotte.
I was wondering if you can give an idea about the cost of a fund and the sustainability model do you have at the fund?
So, as you understand, the project has been funded last year by the Ministry of Education. It is still funded, the money still comes from the Ministry of Education. However, the institutions that did contribute did it on their own. We do not take into account at the fund level the building of the MOOC, and the figures that Pablo gave of the cost of a MOOC are basically the same in France. So this is really the charge of the universities. And of course, the main issue for the future is what will be an economical model for fund. So right now, we are in the middle of a process that, last year, our minister really wanted to give a big push to the French system. And so she decided to launch this initiative as an experimental initiative. On the long run, this is not the role of the minister to support the platform. So right now, we are working with a consortium of universities and grandes écoles who will take charge of this platform in the future. So this should be done early next year. And of course, during this process of discussion, we are talking about the business model. We are talking about the way universities will contribute, and we are naturally looking at what sort of financial resources we will have in the future. One of them naturally is certification, but we are also looking very closely to the issue of MOOC for lifelong learning education, because we know that this is going to be an issue. And to tell you the truth, right now, some of the MOOCs, I was talking about this management, MOOC on management. This MOOC on management is really, there are companies who are really looking for this MOOC very closely for their internal training. So we are currently working with the university who is providing the MOOC and those institutions to see how it will go in the future.
Sì, la faccio in italiano questa volta, ok? No, volevo capire se la ricerca fatta alla fine, che riguarda la certificazione, ha come campione, insomma, persone che hanno concluso il corso o tutti i tipi di partecipanti. Cioè, chi è interessato alla certificazione è arrivato alla fine del corso o c'è una variazione in percentuali anche rispetto a chi ha concluso e chi non ha concluso il corso? Perché a me sembra strano che qualcuno che ha concluso il corso poi non gli interessi molto la certificazione, se è possibile.
Well, the figures I was giving you for the certification, the percentage of certification is coming from the survey. So we have 10,000 answers to the surveys, which is naturally the way it is for a survey. Not everyone is answering. And naturally, most of the people who did answer the surveys are active learners on FUN. So you have to take this into account. Okay.
Io ho un'ultima domanda. Ho notato che nella... Così loro capiscono. Ho notato che nella presentazione la parola di sicuro più usata era MOOC, ma la seconda era French. Nel senso che il tema dell'utilizzo del francese, della lingua francese e della centralità della nazione francese è molto importante, perché è cruciale per il vostro progetto. Mi chiedo se nella riflessione sulla sostenibilità futura di FUN questo approccio non possa costituire una limitazione alle possibilità di sviluppo del bacino d'utenza e anche della vostra mission in un senso più ampio.
Are you talking about the fun, that the F of fun is France?
The fact of the word French is a very, you use it a lot of time in the sense that the French language, the French culture is very
well, that's the way we started. That's the way we started the project. It is funded by the French Ministry of Higher Education. Just because of that, it is dedicated to French higher education institution or Francophone higher education in the. That doesn't mean that we will not welcome other universities, but you know, that's the way the project started. So this is probably the reason why we are working this way. Well, I'm not sure that this is really an issue. I mean, the sustainability of the project is going to be by what we do with the learners and what new services we provide to the learners, and how we manage to make sure that they come and they stay and they get services that they will pay for. So.
Very interesting, because I think that also an Italian way for MOOCs have to take in account this issue of the language, because we are not English speaking, so there is not an obvious choice about it. Very well, thank you very much, Madame Mongenet. Chiamo ora Fabienne Schumann di University, l'iniziativa invece tedesca di grandissimo successo sul tema dei MOOCs. Vedo che fa il giro lungo per raggiungerci, ma va benissimo, l'importante è arrivare.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Fabian Schumann. I am head of academic partnerships at Iversity. I had made a little bit of a gamble today because I was the last one to present. I thought I could leave out some aspects which hopefully would be presented before me, and it worked even better out than I anticipated. Pablo gave a great introduction into MOOCs and also in the university perspective. So I can leave this out because we have similar experiences. Yuma gave a great introduction into like the problems in terms of just didactics of setting up a course and what is important regarding the quality of video, the engagement of students, where we've also made very similar experiences at Iversity. And Mark presented FutureLearn, and similar to them, we have a high focus on usability. We have also, our developers are, most of them come from the business sector. They have done web design for commercial platforms. So we know how important it is actually to have a well-functioning, just a user experience and focus on this to make learning fun for the users. We have some similarity to FutureLearn. We are a bit jealous about the profiles yet. We're working on this currently. We'll probably steal your following mechanism where you can follow some people in discussions. And this is something we'll probably do in the beginning of next year. But besides that, we have lots of similarities in this regard. And Catherine ended her talk, which was perfect for me, with the question of certification. And this is something I will talk about today and focus on today. And then I'll also especially talk about what our plans are for the future going forward. Now I'll start a little bit with kind of like where we came from and who we are. In 2012, as we all probably know, the MOOC tsunami has started. Actually, one of our founders, Hannes Klapper, in January of 2012, wrote an article for the Huffington Post saying, let's make the human right to education a reality, a call to keyboards. And we picked up on this really early. Actually, when this happened in the US, we knew from the beginning that we want to do this. Where were we at the time? Well, Iversity started in 2008, so 6 years ago, as a student project by the other founder, Jonas Liebmann, who was a student back then at the Humboldt University and the Free University in Berlin. And he was terribly annoyed by having to use two learn management systems to actually study efficiently. And he said, this cannot be the future. We want to create a more open learning environment for students and move towards a platform and create a platform where students from different universities can use, and all universities use this platform together to create the best possible learning experience for the students, and also allow for students to take their content and the material with them. And especially in the regards to Bologna with the bachelor and master system, this is incredibly important in a way to say, if I'm done with my bachelor's and I switch universities, I do not lose everything I have worked with for the last 3 or 4 years. This was founded by, he received a grant from the Exist grant system, which is funded by the Ministry of Economics and Energy in Germany. And he worked on this idea for 3 years. And in 3 years, him and Hannes Klepper together actually founded Diversity Company, backed by funds from, we got funding from the EU, from a German state of Brandenburg, from the Deutsche Telekom, so from various players. In the beginning, even already in 2011, like we had this open platform, we had 40,000 users back in the day, and we thought, wait a second, we have all those users on here from different universities, why not just create open courses for them with material which is available? So we actually took, in the fall of 2011, we took video lectures from Harvard. We put them on our platform. We put additional articles which we thought would be interesting to students on there. So we created our first open online courses in a way in 2011 already, before we had ever heard about MOOCs and those open online courses at Stanford. When they came, as I said, in 2012, we thought this is the future, this is what we want to do. So we worked on this in 2012, and in the beginning of 2013, we decided officially, okay, we take a step away from having this learning management system and go completely into MOOCs and go and create a new MOOC platform and bring the MOOC wave to Europe. The big question for us was, how do we actually start this? And while in the US it started with the large universities, and also Future Learn started with like having the top universities, we thought about a different approach, and we did it in a way of a bottom-up approach. This was the MOOC Production Fellowship. It was a contest we hosted together with the Stifterverband für Deutsche Wissenschaft, which is one of the largest bodies regarding financing of educational projects in Germany. And together we awarded 25,000 euros each to 10 winners to create an open online course. We had 250 applications from over 20 countries. It was a huge success. We had a voting in there also to actually not just figure out which the best courses would be, but also what the users wanted. So we had over 100,000 votes actually on those courses, trying to figure out what exactly the best courses would be to offer in a first step. The jury in the end selected those, and we had first 10 courses in October of 2013. Just to name two, which were really interesting. We had the Future of Storytelling by a small university. It was the University of Applied Science in Potsdam. The university has like 3,000 students. The course had over 90,000 enrollments in the end. It was an incredible experience for the teachers. It was a incredibly successful course. I believe everybody who has ever had a look at those videos, some people maybe have, it's just a great course. The second course I want to pick out was the course called the EU in Global Governance, which was a course created by 3 institutions. It was by the European University Institute in Florence, the KU Leuven, and the University of Passau, bringing together experts from not only their universities, but also from their network, and creating a course which just nobody would have been able to replicate in a normal university setting. It was a course which was completely unique in its way of combining experts from all over Europe in this. And so with this, we started out in 2013. Now we are at over 50 courses. We have courses from various fields. We do not really have a focus right now in this area. We have 50,000 users, 750,000 enrollments, and a little what is special to us, we have already courses which award ECTS credits. I'll go into this a bit in a second. Just to give you an idea, those are some of our existing partners which offer courses. I would like to pick out, since I'm in Italy, we are working with the University of Padua, who is one of our partners, Luis, and as I said, the European University Institute. Padua and Luis will both start offering courses in the beginning of next year, so we'll actually announce those, I believe, next month, hopefully, maybe in January, when the first courses by those will be announced. We're also in discussions with many more institutions and universities in Italy. As was mentioned before, there is a strong development happening in Italy right now. The Rectors' Conference proclaimed that there's a need in Italy to move in this direction, to bring digitization into the Italian higher education. And so especially my colleague Manuela, who is our country manager here in Italy, is in touch with a lot of universities in Italy who want to become one of our partners. I want to go now into what we want to. We want to enable people to take courses from universities anywhere. We have a focus on Europe, but we actually also have courses from other countries outside of Europe. We want them to learn no matter where they are. We believe, of course, in the flexibility which online courses allow for, but this is more or less the same as for every other platform. Where we have a stronger focus on is the ability to earn recognized certificates. Again, Catherine talked about this a little bit. We have already taken the first steps in this regard, and we don't even only want to offer certificates, but we actually want to offer and integrate our courses into the European credit system, because we believe there's a unique possibility in Europe. And just recently there was the high-level group for modernization of European higher education proclaimed that we should take this system which we have, which is a quality system, which is a recognized system all over Europe, and use this for online education too, and move into this direction now. And this through this to take the next step in higher education. There are two problems with this. When we talk about the certification of massive open online courses, and that is, first of all, the users are everywhere in the world. When you're talking about European credit system, especially everywhere in Europe. And the second is, not everything can be tested automatically. We cannot just say we test a course in Introduction to Philosophy through a multiple choice test. This just does not work. And so we have thought about this problem, and this is where I want to talk about our solutions, which we propose. Scalable professional evaluation. What we are doing, what we've tried out now, and what we'll continue on doing is we thought about how does the evaluation of an exam or essay work at a university. And in the fewest cases, it is the professor who teaches the course who does the evaluation. Most of the time, it's the teaching assistants of the professor who do this. If you have a course, Introduction to Macroeconomics, it is not a multiple choice exam, but still it can be evaluated by not only by the professor who does this, but by PhD students who are right now writing their thesis, by master's students actually who are doing their masters in economics. They can actually also do this evaluation. And this is where we come in. We say, you create the course, you create the exam, you create scoring criteria as you do for your regular teaching assistants, and you give us qualifications needed for somebody who actually evaluates your course. And we go out, we recruit those people, we give the instructor a list of people who fulfill this criteria. He or she can then choose his personal, what we call cloud teaching assistants, who do the evaluation. And of course, if questions arise, they can go back to the instructor, but this greatly reduces the workload for the instructor and for the institution, because they do not have to worry about how to evaluate 1,000 essays, but they can kind of like outsource this to the cloud of really, really smart people out there in the world who can also do this evaluation. And going forward, we believe this will be something which has already been happening in Germany. In Germany, when you study law, your essays are evaluated by some people outside of the university system anyway. And this is something we want to scale and allow for scalable professional evaluation. The second is the proctoring, which is the second problem. We already have included online proctoring. We're working with a company which is called Software Secure. It's the same one which edX uses. And we have online proctoring included, and instructors can have exams online, which are online proctored. The second thing is that it's actually something similar to what Catherine is proclaiming, that online proctoring doesn't always cut it. And there are two reasons. Either you do not have good enough internet, or universities have a hard time awarding actually official credits for an online proctored exam. While we believe online proctoring will be the future, right now we are aware that it's not. And we need to find a solution until then. And so what we're doing right now in Germany is we have testing locations all over Germany. We have 20 now in Germany where exams are hosted. And those are not just any testing facilities, but actually other universities which just give us the space and also the people to be there to proctor the exam on weekends where nobody else uses the facilities. And we plan on rolling this out into other countries in Europe to allow for on-site proctoring all over Europe and the awarding of ECTS credits outside of all over Europe. And we believe this is actually kind of like a scalable solution for both of those problems regarding certification. And this is why I now want to go and what's next. From our perspective, we believe that open online courses allow for a great next step in integrating higher education in Europe. We believe we have this whole process of coming closer together all over Europe in the area of not only higher education, but in general, and this can be a part of it. While we, yes, right now stress the mobility of students and creating a common system, this open online course allows students from everywhere in Europe to take classes together, actually. We do not believe this will kind of like substitute for general university setting, but it will just add additional value for students and create this digital Erasmus in our mind, where a student from Spain can take a class from University in Italy together with students from Germany, France, and the UK, and Sweden, and Poland, and everywhere, and truly enhance this experience. In a way, it's like the new horizon for academic mobility. And this is something we strive towards. And just to give you an impression, like in 2014, we started working on the pilot projects and the first courses with ECTS credits. We wanted to go into figuring out how can I actually award credits. We've talked to accreditation agencies, we've talked to the universities, how to set this up. The next step for us in the next year will be a credit federation. And I'll talk about this in more detail on the next and last slide. And going forward, we believe there will be international arrangements to actually have online course integrated into European higher education. For this, we need this first step. And this is our first step on the way. This is a credit federation, a partnership network of institutions, where we believe we find partners who are on eye level, who agree on a common standard, who agree on quality standards for their courses, on maybe topics they would like to bring into this partnership network. And each university offers 1 or 2 courses. And if 9 other universities also do this, they get out of this network, they get 10 to 20 courses out of this for themselves, which can be integrated into the curriculum. Students can take the exams at their regular university for a course which was created at another university. You can improve the offering for students in a great way. You can also have at your own campus have student groups, learning groups, which learn together. You can have this amazing add-on in terms of connection between students from those other universities. And just from my experience, the fewest universities offer enough for their students in regards of the curriculum. Every student during their studies takes 2 to 3 courses he just doesn't want to take. He just has to take because he needs the credits, and he doesn't, and it just fits his schedule. It's Wednesday at 12 o'clock, and it's just, it fits, but it's not what he wants to do. So supplying their students with actually with this new courses, and not only their own course, but also specializations I could not actually offer at my university, is something we truly believe will be the next step. And all of this you could also do in an internal, just like network, do an online course for yourself. But then you would leave out the great ability to offer also those courses to a global audience, to actually improve the access to education, spread education across the world, for a university, create a new brand for themselves, show off how innovative they are. For a teacher, show how his latest thoughts, his quality in teaching. And this is right now what we're talking to with a lot of institutions. We're right now working on setting up those first, and it's not doesn't have to be just one federation, it can be multiple networks which just like agree on various levels, on maybe specializations in some area or not. But this is kind of like our big focus for the next year. This is where we want to go into. We believe this will be the first step in a systematic integration of online courses into higher education. And from this going forward into a full-scale integration in all over Europe. And then what MOOCs don't only have to be this add-on, this additional like course for a global audience, but this doesn't improve my own teaching and this experience of my own students, but it actually combines this improving my own teaching, improving the experience for my students, and also having this as a new tool to teach and educate people all over the world. And with this, I say thank you for your. I don't have the time right now. I think then I'm glad. So yes, thank you. Questions.
Thank you really very much. L'ultima slide credo che dovrebbe far riflettere le università presenti qui, per cui immagino ci sia qualche domanda, perché lui la propone con una grande freschezza e la certezza che questo percorso possa avere degli interlocutori. Piacerebbe sentire qualcosa dal pubblico su questo tema, o se avete altre domande in particolare. Prego. Sì. Capisci l'italiano? You can understand Italian?
Ringrazio Fabienne per la sua presentazione, soprattutto per l'ultima slide che menzionava Susanna, che Fabienne propone con molta freschezza. Effettivamente per noi ci sarà forse molto da fare in questo settore. Come Università di Pavia posso dire che noi stiamo cercando di approcciare questo schema che ci sta offrendo Fabienne in questo momento in un altro modo, che non sia l'affiliazione a un partner per l'erogazione di MOOCs, anche se poi uno dei nostri obiettivi è di arrivare anche lì. In questo momento stiamo partecipando a un progetto europeo Erasmus Plus, finanziato dall'Unione Europea, in partnership con altre 4 università. L'idea di questo progetto, che si chiama OUVM, che sta per Opening Universities for Virtual Mobility, è quello di tenere insieme dei concetti molto interessanti. La mobilità virtuale, in questo caso direi che quello che ha detto Fabienne è perfetto. L'utilizzo e il riutilizzo di Open Educational Resources, è un concetto che certamente fa parte di ciò di cui noi stiamo parlando come Massive Open Online Courses, il tutto tenuto sotto l'egida di una licenza libera in Creative Commons. Quindi l'idea di strutturare dei percorsi e dei moduli facendo in modo di creare insieme in queste 5 università un percorso di studi che vorrebbe essere dedicato per esempio a un percorso di scienza dell'educazione, dove le università messe insieme, quindi c'è una mobilità sia dal punto di vista degli studenti sia dal punto di vista degli insegnanti, creare insieme dei moduli che collaborativamente alla fine creano un percorso di studi. Questi moduli andranno erogati in parte circa un terzo in forma libera, i rimanenti 2/3 saranno riservati agli studenti e ai professori che fanno parte di questo consorzio. Quindi diciamo che l'Ateneo Pavese si pone verso quest'ottica, si confronta verso quest'ottica, prima di tutto con un approccio pilota che è dato da questo progetto europeo. Noi crediamo fortemente nel sostegno della mobilità virtuale e naturalmente anche nel sostegno dell'internazionalizzazione che questi aspetti possono dare ai nostri studenti. Stiamo lavorando in questo settore, stiamo prendendo anche in considerazione naturalmente il discorso del provider, abbiamo dei colloqui in corso. L'idea è quella di rafforzare sicuramente digital literacy dei nostri studenti e dei nostri professori, mobilità virtuale, creazione di risorse aperte, internazionalizzazione, questi concetti verso cui l'Ateneo Pavese sta approcciando. Utilizziamo questo progetto soprattutto anche per fare sperimentazione scientifica e pedagogica all'interno del nostro Ateneo, in ordine poi di arrivare a un concetto, diciamo così, più legale, più generale, più esplicito, che possa fare un discorso di concessione di ECTS e di scambio di studenti. Quindi mi trovo in quest'ottica, c'è da lavorare molto, infatti in questo progetto che stiamo facendo sono proprio previste sessioni di training, sia del nostro staff, sia dei nostri docenti, presso varie università europee esperte in questo settore. Il disegno mi piace, non è così immediato, c'è da lavorare perché non è così facile creare delle risorse che vadano a comporre delle azioni formative sulla rete. Non è la stessa cosa che fare delle azioni in presenza. Per questo motivo bisogna sforzarsi di preparare sia lo staff sia i docenti. Non è una domanda ma giusto una considerazione che volevo condividere con tutti. Grazie.
Well, yeah, it's not easy. Just picking this up, but in a way, I would like to pick up what Pablo said in the beginning when they said what they did was they did kind of like a risk analysis and saying of course there's a risk with kind of like doing something which doesn't work out perfectly, but the risk of not doing something in this area is way higher. And I believe this is something is also from our perspective, from our federation or about your project. I believe one needs to really like just go into the section and way like try this out and try to set up those systems, even if it's from our perspective, like right now, there's just a lot of gray areas. There's just a lot of area where nothing is regulated, nothing is decided yet, because it is so new. And there you just, in a way, have to create pilot projects and to just go ahead and fill the void and create realities in a way.
No, non volevo fare un intervento, volevo passare il microfono, però già che a questo punto ne approfitto. Io credo che un elemento molto interessante di quest'ultima slide non sia tanto l'idea di federazione di trasferimento crediti che avviene all'interno dell'università, che pure è centrale, cioè le università si mettono d'accordo, costruiscono un modello di scambio di crediti, delle risorse fatte a Foggia possono circolare a Trento e viceversa. Ma quello che è interessante e su quale secondo me dovremmo interrogarci è che cosa succede poi all'esterno, perché normalmente noi distinguiamo la formazione che facciamo dentro l'università per i corsi di studio e la formazione permanente che noi rivolgiamo all'esterno. In questo modello quelle stesse risorse, poiché vengono appunto smontate dal contesto originario, tirate fuori dal contesto originario, potrebbero essere applicate anche per la formazione permanente. Questo, secondo me, questa possibilità di riuso e di ricontestualizzazione apre degli scenari che sono veramente nuovissimi rispetto ai quali noi non ci siamo mai interrogati, perché non è soltanto i 12 CFU che noi abbiamo a disposizione per la legge Gelmini che sono in gioco qui, i 12 CFU che per ogni studente noi possiamo riconoscere nelle mobilità, negli scambi, ma è qualcosa di molto più complesso che credo si debba ancora studiare. Chi deve fare un intervento? Sorry,
just a quick about this lifelong learning aspect. I mean, currently they are reworking the ECTS guidelines right now. And from my knowledge, there has been the decision to what currently is the European credit system for vocational training to move this towards also integrate this into the ECTS. And so when talking about lifelong learning, this whole integration in ECTS becomes the same question. Like, how do you actually measure kind of like the learning of somebody in any type of situation in his life? ECTS right now is only for university. I'm pretty sure, and there's this the want, at least from a European, the EU perspective, and that we should also include lifelong learning into the ECTS, and then kind of like this all flows together in a way. And our perspective of having ECTS for students, but also having ECTS for global audience, for lifelong learners, comes into play.
Una domanda, mi scuso, parlo italiano. Dunque, ringrazio Fabiano e volevo chiedergli questo. Noi stiamo facendo una ricerca, sempre di Erasmus+, un progetto europeo, sul tema della professionalità HR nelle piccole e medie imprese. Si chiama SMEQUAL, il progetto, e abbiamo fatto un anno di lavoro. E c'è anche un sindacato belga, la Francia e altri paesi. Uno dei nostri obiettivi era definire i punti ISVET e anche dandogli un valore EQF per la professione dell'uomo o donna che si occupa di risorse umane. Siamo partiti per creare la qualification, siamo partiti dalle competenze, dall'analisi delle competenze, con grande difficoltà, perché lavorare nella piccola e media impresa è un conto in Italia, è un conto in Germania, è un conto in Spagna, sono realtà totalmente diverse. Allora apprezzo molto e lo vedo con prospettiva ottimistica questa idea di lavorare università insieme a strutture, enti e credo anche sindacati, associazioni di categoria, no? Devono entrare in questa infrastruttura ed è utile e interessante, però ci sono indubbiamente delle difficoltà. Questo era un primo quesito per sapere appunto se condivide queste difficoltà. L'altro aspetto riguarda, bisogna partire dalle competenze. Noi abbiamo lavorato, ripeto, con tanta difficoltà nel cercare di definire le skills, il knowledge e l'attitude. Abbiamo utilizzato un modello dei tanti che esistono sulle competenze e finalmente abbiamo avuto il quadro delle qualification. Però credo che i nostri risultati difficilmente possano essere, abbiamo pensato a un piloting da fare a Roma 3 appunto, ma i nostri risultati difficilmente potranno poi diventare uno strumento su cui le università possono dare i loro crediti. Cioè sono paralleli i sistemi. Noi abbiamo per esempio un master in HR, io vorrei utilizzare tutta questa attività di analisi delle competenze, di attribuzione di SVET, di punti EQF, European Qualification Framework, però trovo difficoltà perché il sistema universitario italiano si basa sul valore legale dei titoli di studio, su un sistema diverso, insomma, e complesso. Grazie.
Possiamo riprendere domande, questioni, approfondimenti. Scusate, possiamo riprendere domande, questioni, approfondimenti anche con gli altri nostri relatori. Intanto ripasso ancora per un attimo la parola a Fabian Schumann per quest'ultima questione sulle competenze e le PMI.
I hope I got the questions right. The first one was more in the direction of the working together with for small and medium enterprise and working with universities. Was this right? That's the first question.
No.
This is This is definitely a problem. And the question there is, this is an area where, of course, education also needs to take place. But when I realized the question is this also the education a university offers or will offer? I mean, in Germany, we have, of course, a lot of University of Applied Science. And those are now moving towards doing exactly this, doing education for for companies, and like the focus on employability, which I know is a highly questionable term. I believe that employability is something which nobody in university likes this term. I believe that it is often misused. I believe there is definitely just a need to have more collaboration between universities and companies in creating courses. I mean, it's something we are already doing now. We have a course, for example, which is called gamification, which is taught by a startup in Spain, which they're also teaching this at a university level, but in essence, they are a startup teaching about gamification and teaching about skills which are really close to the labor market. In essence, I believe there just needs to be kind of like a rethinking in a way of who offers what kind of education, and when it comes to the needs for small and medium enterprises, there is definitely a need for not just teaching from universities to them, but also just from experts from those small companies for other companies.
Io credo che comunque il tema delle competenze sia centrale. Forse potremmo avere anche altre risposte, perché i punti di vista sono differenti. Cioè noi in Italia, come in molti paesi europei, progettiamo la formazione universitaria sulle competenze. Noi abbiamo dei profili in uscita che sono descritti con questi descrittori di Dublino, e quindi identifichiamo le competenze in uscita. I singoli insegnamenti nei corsi di studio rispettano queste competenze in uscita. Se noi prendiamo frammenti dai corsi di studio, diventa poi difficile identificarli e collocarli nella giusta prospettiva, appunto, di una didattica per competenze come quella italiana. Quindi forse nel vostro sistema bisognerebbe avere un modello di identificazione delle risorse anche basato sulle competenze in uscita, chiaramente descritte con un modello condiviso come quello dei descrittori di Dublino, in modo da poterle riconoscere e quindi effettuare effettivamente uno scambio di crediti. Non so se qualcun altro vuole, Mark vuole.
Our approach to the Future Learn's approach to credit is to stay away at the moment. We think it's up to the university to decide after the fact whether it wants to recognize it, how it recognizes it, what weight it gives it. It's a very personal decision at the moment. Now, in future, there may be ways of agreeing a standard, but I don't think they're quite there yet. So I'm not sure what's causing the disturbance. So what I think MOOCs should focus on initially is alternative ways of recognition. And there are ways of doing that. It's getting, as I've talked about, it's getting employers or professional bodies to put a quality mark on it. So we have courses that are recognized by the accountancy bodies, or we work with the Institution of Engineering and Technology, the largest professional body in Europe around that area. And others can come in and give their badge of honor to those things. And that doesn't impact the university. All it does is it adds value to the course you've created. It shows it's playing to a professional market. It's valued as continuing professional development for them. And that's a good thing, because we know most of the people on the platform are still lifelong learners. They're not looking to do a degree again. Then they're not looking to do necessarily a follow-on. They could be, but that's not the primary motivation. The primary motivation is to learn, to upskill. And I think credits at this point muddy the waters. It's not to say that in time won't evolve, but I think the first step we would see before that is integrating the MOOCs in campus to improve the experience. And then I think you will find that you can wrap, as a part of a blended model, be able to more easily award credit using the resources and using the pedagogy and the style that you've actually introduced through the MOOC. And I think that's where we'll all learn what their place is and how to value them.
Thank you very much. So stay away from credits. So this the strategy is very, very interesting. I think for our usual and traditional vision of education. What about these topics in fun?
Well, of course, as Mark mentioned, giving credit is just the responsibility of the university. So right now there is one MOOC in France, which is a very early MOOC, started in very early 2013. They are running their 4th session, and they have decided to give credit, but it's outside the MOOC. Let's say you take the MOOC, then because you take the MOOC, you give a certificate. You may get different types of certificate depending on whether you have been really involved in different topics on the MOOCs. And then if you want to, let's say, get credit from those certificates, then you will go to the university who has decided to, and then you will show your certificate, you will get registered in this university, and then you will get the ICTS credits corresponding to the MOOC.
Just one add-on. Of course, we are not awarding credits. It's the universities who offer the courses who award the credit. We are just facilitating this through our system. And I believe what Catherine said is that yes, currently right now also we have the situation you earn credits in one of our courses, and then you go to university and have this accepted. We currently ask students to just do this beforehand, ask their local university if they will accept it, because otherwise they might be a bit depressed if they don't. But yeah, of course. But from our perspective, it's just we would like to reduce this step. We'd want the student to know beforehand, to see this course and say, okay, I can get credit for this. My university already told me beforehand that I can get credit for this, and through this kind of like increase his experience.
Posso aggiungere questa cosa? Lui prima ha nominato questo corso The Future of Storytelling, che è stato uno dei corsi di maggior successo di University. Io sono stata tra gli studenti della prima edizione di questo corso e effettivamente ho sperimentato il fatto che gli 80.000 partecipanti al corso non si sono posti la questione della certificazione. Si è arrivati all'ultima settimana di corso, qualcuno timidamente nel forum ha cominciato a mettere: ma ci darete qualcosa alla fine poi per questo corso? E all'inizio la risposta della professoressa Schöller di Potsdam è stata: non lo sappiamo, dobbiamo ancora un pochino pensarci, vi faremo sapere. E poi alla fine hanno valutato che potesse essere opportuno per chi aveva effettivamente svolto un certo numero di esercitazioni di attività avere un certificato, ma questo si è saputo circa 3 settimane dopo la fine del corso. Per dire che per quelle 80.000 persone iscritte al corso, sicuramente, come diceva Mark Lester, il focus principale era imparare qualcosa, migliorare le proprie competenze, avere un'esperienza di apprendimento in un contesto globale. E il tema della certificazione sicuramente non era così cruciale come ci si potrebbe attendere nei percorsi tradizionali. Davvero, come ci ha detto Mark Lester, i MOOC si propongono come un altro modo di riconoscere e addirittura cioè, di celebrare il successo, che è il successo formativo. Mi sembrava una chiave estremamente interessante. Chiedo a Pier... c'è ancora... Prego.
Sì. Allora, mi è piaciuta moltissimo la metafora dello tsunami che ha utilizzato, non mi ricordo quale degli oratori, e ho, ahimè, l'impressione che la gran parte delle università, almeno quelle italiane, le università tradizionali, sono lì sulla spiaggia a vedere il mare che si ritira, si stanno domandando cosa mai sarà sta roba e che cosa succederà dopo, e che non hanno visto la montagna d'acqua come il film Invader, qualcosa che c'è in giro adesso, che si sta avvicinando, travolgendole completamente. Perché, come diceva la Susanna all'inizio, Qui quello che salta fuori è che c'è un modello che si sta costruendo mentre noi ci trastulliamo nelle nostre aule chiuse, completamente diverso di produzione, diffusione e certificazione dei contenuti per l'higher education, in quanto noi università, in particolare le italiane, abbiamo sempre trascurato il fatto che ci fosse il mercato della lifelong learning. Adesso questo sta venendo fuori prepotentemente e dato che noi appunto siamo lì sulla spiaggia a aspettare, qualcun altro ha trovato la soluzione. Questo impatta su un mondo che è quello delle università italiane, dove c'è bisogno di una modifica copernicana, perché le università italiane sono state sempre incentrate sulla ricerca, o quantomeno la valutazione dei docenti delle università italiane è stata sempre soltanto puntata sulla ricerca, con il risultato che la qualità della didattica è scarsissima, nessuno conosce le nuove tecnologie, nessuno conosce le nuove metodologie. Allora la domanda è: ma come sarà possibile per l'università, almeno quella italiana, riuscire a cambiare così completamente il proprio approccio alla realtà che sta cambiando di sotto al naso? E la seconda domanda è: voi che l'avete capito perché avete orecchie ben più fini per intendere il mercato, in che modo potete aiutarci noi delle università tradizionali, non tanto noi che siamo qui e che quindi forse l'abbiamo capito che l'onda sta arrivando, ma la nostra governance che è lontanissima dall'aver capito queste cose?
Ringrazio moltissimo per questa domanda. Mi spiace che sia andato via Pablo Asciar, che aveva messo nell'ultima slide quella frase consolante che le diceva: le università non scompariranno. Siccome nessuno gliel'aveva chiesto, sembra più inquietante che rassicurante, però lui sembrava sicuro che non scompariranno. Ma mi piacerebbe sapere una risposta da Future Learner rispetto a quale potrebbe essere il ruolo delle università per non scomparire e reinventarsi, no? Soprattutto in contesti come
Okay, so I agree with Pablo. Universities are not disappearing. And I think the challenge here is also, it's not about MOOCs either. This is about the internet. The internet is a disruptor of businesses. It has been in publishing, in retail, in most of the businesses that have been touched by it. It has transformed. In music, you can keep going and going. And universities are going to be no different. Education is no different. But you know, digital forms of learning will find their place. The thing is, people don't change as quickly as technology do. And the challenge and Italy's not miles behind. It may be, you know, the other universities in the UK and Germany and the US are doing this now and have started a couple of years, 3 years ahead of you. But actually, the number of courses out there and the number of actual academics who have been exposed to them is still very small. And the same barriers and inertia within universities and academia is still high. So I wouldn't start panicking yet. But yes, how do you encourage a generation to shift mindset, not to learn new tools, to think not of themselves as the fountain of all knowledge, but actually as the mentor, the expert advisor, the coach that helps a community learn together. It's a very different way of thinking, but it's something that will take time. It takes the people to move first. It takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of pressure from students and having transparency on the quality of the experience that has improved by using these on campus from the students, and having then the edge of a professor looking at his colleague saying, why is he so well rated and getting so many good, you know, such support, and everybody turning up to his class and nobody wants to come to mine? It will evolve, and then they'll take interest. But the things working against that will improve this is the incentive structure within a university. So at the moment, incentives are dominated by research. Your success, your career is dominated by research. There are moves always in many universities I've seen to recognize teaching excellence But how that's measured and whether that is more important in the end than the research that they produce is another story. But I think the more forward-thinking universities will start to recognize within their systems the value of good teaching. And I think the more that happens, the more you will see a shift, maybe from, as we talked about, a younger generation of upcoming professors rather than those who are at sort of the pinnacle of their research careers who don't really need to do that.
Well, I do agree absolutely with what Mark said. I have the feeling that there is another component in the equation to move forward. It's how our universities, their presidents, their rectors, the people who guide the university, who make the strategic decision, really take into account the fact that digital technologies are there and they have to be used, and the fact that digital technologies is an investment. It's not a burden when you don't have enough money. And we all know that when money is scarce, then you will remove lines in your budget, and very often those lines are buildings, renovation, and digital technologies. And I think that this is another very important issue. That's why in France, the ministry really decided that we have to put on the top of the agenda the reflection, the discussion on a strategic agenda for the system. And from what I'm seeing over the last year is that because there was this very top-down decision, now all the presidents are talking about that. You know, we have an organization which is called Conférence des Présidents d'Université, which you have exactly the same thing with your rector association. And next year, this conference decided that the big annual conference that they have every year is going to be on digital technology. That wouldn't have happened 2 years ago, definitely not. So there is the question of how we help the professors to move on and to take into account these aspects in their teaching, but it won't happen if people who govern the universities do not move forward as well. And this is, in my opinion, a very crucial issue as well.
I think actually also Mark put it perfectly. One thing I would add is there is just a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear and a lot of fear of the unknown. There's fear on the rector's perspective, what it means in terms of strategy. And there's a lot of fear on the instructor, the professor level, what this means for them and what it means for them also, not just kind of like how they will perceive, but just how to do it. Like how do I actually teach in this new setting, how to create these videos. And I mean, we are right now working, we just applied for a grant with another German university for a project about creating best practices for just like small digitalization of content and just kind of like lowering the barrier for the individual instructor. I believe this is something like Catherine is right regarding there needs to be like there's a need for top-down kind of like positive like to put up this goal and say like we should do this. On the other hand, of course, you also need to empower the professors to actually do this. And this is kind of like how we started up with this bottom-up approach. Just like find the ones in individual university who want to do this, let them try this out and show their colleagues that it's not the end of the world, that it actually can be a positive experience. All the professors who taught courses said it was a lot of work, but the experience is amazing. Like this experience with all those students from all over the world, it is just great. Yes, you have to put work into it, but the reward is so high. Like you should try this out too. And I believe this is something where we also need to like have this like from both sides, like top down, say we should do this strategically, and then try it out, create best practices on the lowest level to just show that it's a possible and a positive experience for the individual instructor.
Ringrazio molto tutti i nostri speaker, in particolare penso che sia molto interessante portarci questo ultimo suggerimento che ci veniva da Mark Lester quando ci diceva non è soltanto una questione di riflessione su MOOC o non MOOC o percorsi formativi, ma è una questione cioè, l'importante per noi riflettere in questo momento su come le università si pongono rispetto a quello che è la rivoluzione digitale in senso più lato, e aggiungerei rispetto a questo anche come si pongono rispetto al tema della conoscenza aperta, dell'open knowledge, cioè di come le tecnologie digitali hanno reso finalmente possibile e realisticamente sostenibile lo sviluppo di sistemi di conoscenza aperta, distribuiti addirittura a livello globale e alimentabili in modo collaborativo, di cui i MOOC sono una delle tante espressioni. Su questo credo che siamo arrivati veramente alla fine della sessione, che ho trovato davvero molto interessante. Vi ringrazio davvero tanto per il contributo che avete dato alla riflessione che stiamo cercando di svolgere, anche a partire da qui, dalle nostre società scientifiche. Ringrazio il pubblico per la partecipazione molto attiva, e allora vi invito, come diceva prima la professoressa Falcinelli, a raggiungere la piazzetta. No, però c'è ancora una comunicazione di servizio, forse? No? Ah, c'è una precisazione logistica. Prego.
Sì, io intanto mi sentivo come padrona di casa, di veramente ringraziare tutti per questa splendida mattina di lavoro. Ci avete dato momenti di entusiasmo, perché quando parlavate io sentivo dentro di me entusiasmo e grandi momenti di preoccupazione, quindi gli animi erano alternati, però ci avete dato veramente molti stimoli e quindi vi ringrazio molto. Ringrazio i colleghi, la professoressa Sancassani, il collega Pierpaolo Limone, per questo veramente momento importante. Allora, adesso alla piazzetta e poi andiamo insieme al ristorante. Volevo ricordarvi che alle 3 ricominciano le sessioni parallele e segnalarvi una variazione. Poiché l'aula 2 deve essere a disposizione di un'attività didattica, come abbiamo segnalato, al posto dell'aula 2 andiamo in aula 5. Quindi l'aula 2 si trasferisce in aula 5, va bene? Poi passerò nelle varie sessioni per il momento successivo. Ci vediamo in piazzetta, Piazza Ermini, qui sopra, non allontanatevi tanto.